Guitar Solo Countdown.
Hey everybody, welcome to Jimmy Wolf Guitar Solo Countdown. We're doing our third mega horror franchise ranking. So we had one left. I don't think there's any more than these three. I mean, these are big franchises. So this is Friday the 13th.
Yeah.
And, yep. And we're going to do worst to first, the classic. And yeah, I'm going to do what I usually do. I'm going to throw it to Sam. And why don't you start?
Hey, what's going on? Wow, this was a ride.
Yep.
Oh boy. I mean, so I guess we've started like the last few with our intros to the franchises. This is an interesting one for me because this has historically been the one for me that like I'm the least into, if that's kind of a way to put like I don't really actually remember my first intro to Friday the 13th as well as the other two, you know. I know that I picked up some references in Scream and then kind of knew, oh, okay, there's that franchise. And I watched the whole thing with friends when I was younger, but it has historically not been like the one that I'm the most obsessed with. So this was a very fun and eye-opening experience for this one. Yeah, that's for sure.
Awesome.
But what about you?
So I've got a bit of a different take. This is actually my favorite franchise of the three.
Whoa.
And I think the only reason is because this was the first one I got into.
Yep.
I think so, you know, kind of dates how old I am, but I used to get all these movies from the video store just down the street from my house, and yeah, I used to always love the horror section. That was kind of like the you know, the more grown-up movies that I really wanted to get into, and all the Friday the 13th were all just lined up. It was the first thing I saw, and yeah, I watched the first one, Friday the 13th Part 1, and it really frightened me and traumatized me. And it was kind of like an uncomfortable experience because I really got scared by it. So it was kind of like this mission. It was this mission from the rest of my life to try to like conquer that movie. You know, it's kind of like, I don't know. I kind of compare horror movies to roller coasters. It's like you go on it when you're really young and you don't like it, but you're still kind of intrigued by it. So, you know, you try again and then you conquer it and then you're like, yes, I'm not scared of it anymore. And it's more just thrilling now. So that, I think that stuck with me.
Yeah, that's awesome. So it's Friday the 13th is for you what Halloween was for me.
Exactly. Yeah.
Whoa, cool.
Exactly.
Cool.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Yep.
Party.
And I think I also just like the fact that they're all like in the woods. Like I like nature, and it kind of gives this backdrop of comfort while all this killing's going on. And there's
you know, that's always the aesthetic that I really liked about it, because the same thing. Like I love camping and I love being out in the middle of the forest, and so that for me I always did like. So yeah, I think, you know, it's interesting because maybe part of it for me is I'm slightly younger, and so a lot of when I was watching the Friday the 13th, like it's definitely more adult, right, than like Nightmare on Elm Street or even Halloween. Like it's way more explicit, way more like with, you know, sexuality and stuff like that, hard drug use, stuff like that. So I think maybe like, you know, it just took me a little bit longer. So at the time I'm watching Nightmare on Elm Street when, you know, I'm like 12, 13, maybe wasn't the time for me to appreciate as much watching Friday the 13th also. So cool. I like it. Oh,
yeah,
boy.
I definitely agree with that. It's kind of like Nightmare is the younger one, I guess. That's the least scary, and then I guess Halloween's sort of in the middle.
Yeah, like I found Halloween really scary, obviously. And you know, there was boobs. In there were some good boobs. But you know, it wasn't like we weren't seeing like, you know, new beginning level of explicit activity. So even though the other ones really scared me, I don't know, maybe this one it needed to be at the right time for me to see it.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, awesome. So yeah, let's start our ranking here. So you want I'll throw it back to you again. Why don't you give us your number 11, I guess, right?
Number 11. Oh boy. Okay, so my number 11 is Friday the 13th Part 5. So A New Beginning. And I want to say this was a pretty easy one for me to put down here. I think my number 11 and my number 10 were both a little bit hard for me to decide between, but I think this one belongs down here. It's funny. The first few notes that I had while I was watching it were actually kind of positive at first. Like, I loved that we didn't have a flashback opening where it was like, last time on Friday the 13th. Like, I was like, oh, thank God, but after watching that 5 times in a row, like I really needed something new. And so I was like, cool. They introduce Tommy Jarvis. And not for the first time in this series. I'm okay with it because the actor playing this Tommy Jarvis is extremely attractive. So I'm in. And so I have the first few notes. I was like, okay, I like it. And then it just started to like go downhill. And a lot of that has to do, I think, with, I don't think it aged well. Yeah. Especially just the handling of the mental health and, kind of making a mockery of especially that one character who gets axed in the beginning. And a lot of the way that stuff was handled, watching it was just like, oh God, like, come on. Did it just because it was the 80s? You thought like that? I don't know, that it was.
It's a real sleazy. It's a sleazy movie.
Yeah, it feels sleazy. Yeah. And, there were some interesting things. Like, I think for one of the first times we're introduced to some side characters who are only there to get killed. But they have kind of a little more personality than ones in the past, So that gross guy, I don't even remember his name, who's doing the blow in the front seat of his car while he's screaming for his girlfriend, who's the waitress. And meanwhile, she's in the mirror going... Showtime, flashing herself. Yeah. Which, by the way, we don't really do that. So just in case anyone's wondering, they think that that's something that like women do routinely. We don't, not at work anyway.
Yeah.
Just too sleazy, softcore porny. It just wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't really up my alley, and the whole. It not being Jason thing. That's really, people get really mad about that. That's probably the thing that bothered me maybe the least because I appreciate that they sort of tried to do something a little different. I just think it was like really poorly executed.
Yeah, it's a terrible premise. Terrible.
Yeah, it's just not, it goes from bad to worse. And there's some highlights. I'm not gonna lie. I was thoroughly entertained by the lady Ethel or whatever her name is.
Ethel's great.
She's
great.
Funny. Like, I was like, okay, this I can watch. Like, this is hilarious. And
fuckwad.
You fuckwad. And the way that she says it, she just fuckwad, like, really hits it. It's so good. There's some good stuff, and there's some, even some good deaths. I think we got the garden shears in the eyes.
Yep.
Great. The boyfriend getting his crushed. Fantastic. Yeah. I mean, just overall just not good. I don't like it.
Yeah. Well, good segue. Same with me. Part 5. Yeah. Least favorite too. Yeah. I'm just realizing that for the other 2 franchises, Part 5 was my least favorite too. So Part 5.
Oh wow.
Franchises. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is with the 5, but.
Maybe it's just reached a plateau at that point.
Yeah, it's kind of like if you pass 4 movies, it's like, wow, you're just going. You're going.
Oh man.
I think the reason why they did 5 was because Part 4 was a surprise success.
Yeah.
It was the most successful one, so I think they just wanted to keep it going.
It's just so funny because you're like, and it's not the final chapter, so we're going to call this one The New Beginning. It just makes perfect sense.
Yeah, totally. It's like, we can't bring Jason back like right away. We have to kind of tease the audience, and then that way we can make another one, Part 6, right?
Yeah.
So.
Just, and God bless him for it. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here right now.
It's true.
Yeah, it's pretty rough. And again, this is something that I was going to bring this up in the last franchise because we had a Tina in Halloween. In Halloween Part 5 was Tina. And then we also had Tina in A Nightmare on Elm Street. And I was going to say, I totally forgot this last time. Like, I'm going to put money on there being a Tina in Friday the 13th. It's probably going to go down as being the most popular female name in horror history.
Yeah.
So there were, I think, 3 more Tinas throughout this franchise.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So yeah, kind of weird. They couldn't think of any other names for these girls. But I noted that there was another Tina in this one, which is kind of cool.
Okay.
But oh man, I don't know.
Pam was the final girl, I think, in Part 5. Pam and Reggie the Reckless.
Okay, I like him.
Yeah, he's good. I think Reggie and his granddad were nice characters. Like but everyone else was not likable. Really unpleasant. And I mean, because that's what I like about these slasher movies is like when there's a camaraderie in the friends. You don't really want them to be killed because you like them and
totally
you want them to stay a group. You know,
totally.
But when it's just random people from outside, like like Ethel's pretty random, right? I mean, there's no empathy for any of these people, right?
No, definitely not. And the thing is, like, there are, I think, and we'll get there, I think there are cases where that same thing is done to way better success just because of the writing and the acting. But specifically in this one, one of my notes was most people in this movie are gross.
Yep.
And they were. And Pam, I was not a fan of. Her scream just drove me insane. I just didn't like her. I didn't really get why she was the final girl. Like, it seemed like they just had to have one. So they were like, oh, we better have one.
It was very formulaic, right?
Yeah, I would have preferred it if they had gone with a final kid and it was just Reggie. And then Tommy shows up. Honestly, I could have dealt without Pam in this one. No.
And Tommy's confusing too because you don't know if he's good or bad. I mean, maybe that's kind of clever, but I mean, even at the very end, like what's going on there? So they were setting up that Tommy was going to start being the next killer. Very confusing.
It was weird because he has this nightmare which we don't know is a nightmare at first, wherein Pam comes in and he stabs her. And then we're left going, oh, he's going to be Jason. And then he wakes up and we're like, oh, it was a nightmare. And then literally that scene just gets repeated. Kind of. Like
he's sort of creeping in the corner, but he doesn't do anything.
Yeah, I guess we don't realize if he kills her or not, right? But yeah, it's like, I don't know. I think, they were kind of hoping to set him up, but.
Yeah, because he did have the mask on at the very end, right? So so maybe it's like he become, I don't know.
And honestly, the character who was the killer, like that just doesn't make any sense because it's like, okay, this paramedic who supposedly is also a deadbeat dad. So why does he even care? And if he did care about his son getting axed, why doesn't he go and kill the guy who axed his kid?
Yeah.
And not
for
just the random people. So that didn't make sense. But then there were also just such a stupid little, like, they tried to like be crafty and hint at it. Like when the cop is standing there and he's like, what in the hell is going on here? And he just goes, you talking to me, Chief?
Yeah, I know.
What? No, I wasn't.
like little hints.
You're like,
but he's probably got like 30 seconds of screen time, probably less, right?
Right.
So we don't care about him anyway, right?
Yeah, and when he's wearing, like, he gets on at the end, and I guess he's wearing 2 masks because like one is like a face bald mask. I don't know, but it's like somehow it's shredded over his face, and at first I was like, who the hell is that? I didn't even know who it was. And then they were like, oh, it's Roy. Who's Roy? What the fuck?
It's like who got it, but it's so sloppy. It was Roy. It's like, who's Roy?
Yeah, who's Roy? But it could have been
on the screen longer, right?
Right, exactly. But it could have been a cool idea to have it not be Jason. It could have been if it had been executed a little better. But I really don't think that, who was it, Danny Steinman? I don't really think he cared much beyond titties and butt. Honestly, I really don't think he cared.
Yeah, I don't know a lot about that director, but I'm pretty sure he was a softcore porn guy. I mean, it was, you know, I think a lot of these horror directors were that. I think they probably did porn for extra money. I think back in at least back in the 70s. I think
you gotta do what you gotta do. You know, you gotta make those dineros. I mean,
of a creepy crossover, but
well, right, it is. Yes, it definitely is. But it's just also like, okay, cool, that's fine. Like, you were a porn director or you directed porn, but like, just care about other things in this non-porn movie. You know, like just maybe like care a little more about some of the other things. Apparently, like Ethel, who we already mentioned we loved, like she basically was responsible for the entire creation of her character. Like he had nothing to do with it. She brought her own wig, like, you know, like and improvised everything. So it's like,
okay,
yeah, I don't know. It's funny because this movie is bad. It's so bad, but how much do we have to say?
It's funny that the bad movies are actually more fun to talk about, eh? Like, it's just like where most of the action is at the very beginning with all these really bad movies. That's funny.
Because they're just so infuriating.
Yeah.
There's so much to say. Yeah. All right. Well, oh yeah, I guess we
number 10.
Number 10. Let me I gotta flip through my notes here just to make sure. Is this one, as we've already said, was difficult. Oh yeah, wait, that's not that hard. My number 10 is Friday the 13th Part 8. Jason.
That's shitter. Yeah.
Manhattan. I was so mad. I you know, I didn't remember a lot about this one. I know I've seen it. I didn't remember a lot about this one, but the title is so good. You know, you're like, oh man, yeah, Jason Takes Manhattan. What a concept that would have been. Except that, as I said to you before, and I'm going to repeat this joke, but this movie should have been called Jason Takes Forever to Get to Manhattan. Yep. Or Jason Takes a Cruise. I don't know, because most of the movie, which is, by the way, I noted, an hour and 40 minutes long. An hour and 40 minutes, which it does not have any right to be. Okay. And most of it takes place on this stupid boat. And none of it makes sense. First of all, see, I'm getting upset.
No, go. It's good.
How can we explain how Crystal Lake, an enclosed body of water, is going to open up into an ocean, which then connects to the East River in New York City? That doesn't make any sense. That's not, and I can suspend my disbelief for so many things if you at least have some way of explaining it, but there's no explanation. It's just, we're on Crystal Lake and we're boarding this cruise ship.
That's true. Yeah.
Where did this cruise ship come from? Who paid for this? This Crystal Lake High School? What? And they get on, and first of all, like, I mean, it's a big boat, and it's stocked with liquor and guns and weapons. I mean, what?
Yeah, they're like skeet. It's like skeet shooting, like off the side of it. Yeah, I mean, it looked pretty fun, but yeah, I don't think you're allowed to do that.
I would be down. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I mean, if I was a teenager, I'd be like, oh, sweet, right? Like, that's awesome. You know, the other idea too that, like, I mean, these it's supposed to be New Jersey, and these kids are like so excited to go to Manhattan. I'm like, you guys would have probably done that in like the 5th grade and the 6th grade and I don't know. There was just something so weird about the whole boat thing. I just really was upset. I was really upset about it. I didn't talk about this. I guess the opening scene where it was like setting up like what Manhattan is like, and it just was such an absolute shithole. Like, there's like vats of primordial ooze.
I know.
People injecting heroin. Like, I was like, okay, wozza. I mean, I've never been, to be fair, I was never in New York City in the 80s. Now, as I understand it was a bit grungier. I don't know if it was that bad though. Like, they just made it look like the most unappealing place. And I think even the narrator is like, we live in a concrete jail or something.
Oh yeah, they had the narrator.
Yeah. What is happening?
I will say though, I absolutely love that opening song though.
Oh yeah, no, that's great. And it
It's
opens
so
and
80s in such a great way.
yes, and then you get the like skyline of Manhattan. That's what I was like, yes, this is gonna be so good. And then I just couldn't understand why the ship was going on for so long. And the characters in this are just, I mean, they're just bad. They're so bad. I don't really like this lead character, this Rennie, very much. She's just fine, you know. She just sort of seems like she gets dragged along the entire movie.
Yeah.
Her gross, disgusting uncle, and that whole story, like that guy is just repulsive, and it makes me so mad that he makes it so far into the movie, because he's just gross. Yeah, I don't know. It's just
Now, is this on purpose? I was starting to realize, like, is that a thing where they want you to hate a character so that you want him to be killed and you cheer when he dies? Like, because I feel some of these characters are so cringy that
totally
they're setting that up.
I think that that's definitely a thing. Here's my problem: don't wait until the very end and then have it be like the stupidest death in the entire movie. Like, make it a good death. If it was like, okay, so if he was the one who, because this is an epic death in the movie, when Julius gets his head punched off. My God, it's ridiculous.
That was great. That was great.
I waited the whole movie for that. Now, here's the thing. That was a great death, and I like that character. That character is actually probably the best one in the movie. But couldn't we have given that epic death to someone we really hated? Like, to just see him get his head just either eviscerated or, I don't know, something. But,
so the dean got dunked into a random vat of acid.
Oh yeah,
I
guess the ooze, which is kind of gross, and you're like, haha, sucks to be you. Ew. Actually, now that I'm remembering it, I'm just imagining like drowning in that. Not
you know what? I actually do a true story. My granddad, when he went to New York for the first time, he was mugged.
Okay, I was like, where's this going? Your granddad got dunked in some ooze?
He didn't get dunked in ooze, but yeah, he was mugged though. He was knocked unconscious, I think. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So they had they had that experience in New York.
Yeah.
Probably like maybe mid to late 70s when that happened, but
yeah, I mean that's a real thing.
Going to be rough. It was a rough place for a while. Yeah.
Totally. You know, and I think certainly during that time, because there obviously was a lot of drug use and the AIDS pandemic and everything else that was going on. It's certainly like, a place for high crime. I just, oh my God. Yeah. I wrote a lot of notes that were just like, what the hell is going on here? We didn't have Manfredini for music with this one. So the music was bad. I'm going to give a shout out to JJ because she was also a really cool character. That's the guitar player.
Oh yeah, she was awesome.
She was great. She was awesome. I would have loved to have seen her live a little longer. She was such a great character, and I think it was just really funny how her and the character that are having the one who's like obsessed with the mean girl or whatever her name even is. And I'm like, dude, like you're standing in front of like the hottest chick in the whole like school. Go for this girl. Like, what are you? She's like, you're gonna go for this rude, gross biatch? No. Yeah. She was a cool character, but good lord. Yeah.
And she had a great line. I forget like what it was, but it's like you want to go into was it in the boiler room for that stadium echo or that? It's kind of like, this is what a rock star chick like would say, right? Stadium echo. Like I thought that was great.
That was so ridiculous. And apparently she played it all herself too, which is cool. She was playing. Yeah. That's what I heard. To be fair, I don't know if it's true, but yeah, she was playing it. The guitar's cool. It's a sick looking guitar.
You know what? To be fair to her, she's an early Instagrammer. What she was doing back then. Well, if you could, like, she was being filmed.
Yeah, that's right.
That's what most guitar players do now, right? Is like filming themselves playing guitar, right? So she was ahead of the curve.
She's a trailblazer. She's an absolute trailblazer. Really? Yeah, I love the line where he goes, I think he says something about I can't remember her name, the mean girl. I don't know. He's like, oh, she's so sexy. And then JJ's like, this guitar is sexy. Like, what the hell are you talking about? Like, oh yeah, she's great. I like it. Like, again, little sprinklings of things that you're like, oh, this would be great. And then just a lot of bad things.
Yep.
Bad.
Okay, Sam, I just gotta move along here. So I'm close, but I put 7. And You Blood is my number 10.
Mm-hmm.
This is where that's where I struggled. It's like 7 and 8. Ugh, it was hard for me. But yeah, I went with 7 because it's very cringe. Like I found the characters in 7 even cringier than the characters in number 8.
Yeah.
Like Dr. Cruz and Tina and her mom. It's just, oh my God,
Yeah.
way too intense.
Yeah.
A lot of cringy lines and so yeah, for me, I had a real tough time getting through 7, and I remember hating it when I was younger too. But I think the only thing that made me like 7 a little better than 5 was that Jason looked great in this. In number 7, He was big and juicy, and it was
spine.
spine showing. Yeah, that was great. Wicked monster face.
Yeah, that was cool. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think it's Kane. So the actor's name was Kane Hodder. So he was he became kind of the famous Jason actor.
Yeah, this was his first one, I think.
It was his first one. Yeah, he was in I think 4 of them, maybe 3 or 4 of them.
Mm-hmm.
So and I thought the Jason versus Carrie at the end was kind of cool too. That was a cool concept.
Yep.
But so I guess that kind of just bumped it up a little bit. But man, yeah, just the characters and the editing in this movie was bad too.
Yeah.
Oh,
not good.
Yeah.
And it was, it's a brutal one. Like, it was definitely hard to get through. And my notes on that one were like, I mean, God, it just takes itself so seriously. And that, I think we even had this conversation about one of the other ones. It's like, and I think it was number 5 of the Nightmare on Elm Street. It's like, okay, they're trying to make it like a way more serious movie than it needs to be. But then there's also like flashes of it being not that way. Like when you get to like the teens and the side characters, you get hints of it not being as serious. And then you're just like, now I'm confused. Like, what is the tone of this?
Yeah.
I mean, that's a pretty good segue if you want, because that was my next. I guess that's number 9.
It's number 9 for you. Yep.
Number 9 for me was The New Blood. And exactly for the reasons that you said. Pointing out another Tina. Here we go. See? Tina. And this one, they made the main girl. So you're like, okay, cool. Awesome.
Right. Tina's in this one. Yep.
My first note, because it was part 7, and it was back to the flashback opening. Hate it. Don't like them. I really don't like them. And to me, that was like, this is showing me like a lack of creativity already in this movie, right? And then it's like, oh my God, the characters are so bad. You're right. They're
so cringy.
They're so bad. My grade 7 and 8 teacher had that Tina's mom hairstyle. So I was getting a little triggered from that.
Nice.
I was like, oh, that's terrible. Why did anyone have that hairdo? My God. There's a lot of stupid little details in it that just like, I mean, when you're catching it, you're like, why didn't someone fix that? Like, Nick, I guess the pretty boy in this one, who is quite pretty, shows up with a shirt for her, for Tina, and he hands her a shirt, but it's the same shirt that she's already wearing. It's literally the exact same shirt. So either this girl has a whole closet full of the same shirts that she always has, or like the same shirts like that she wears all the time. I don't understand why someone didn't catch that. Like, it's the same shirt. Yeah, I hated it. But all the things you said were great. The final sequence was really awesome. That was cool. The tightening of the mask was awesome. I was like, why can't you make that last a little longer? Like, why didn't you just literally eviscerate his head with that it was working? Like, the goo was coming out, girl. Just keep going. But, that was kind of cool. Yep. I only had one good kill in this one. One. And that was the sleeping bag against the tree.
That's right. Yep.
Yeah.
I do like the death of the I guess we call her like the bitch in this movie, like
that's true. God,
like that was a great kill because like she was like she was just so annoying the whole movie. And this is one of those kills where you kind of wouldn't be upset if she died. And then Jason just kind of comes in the door. I forget if he stabs her, and then he just throws her against the wall.
Yeah, and she deserved that. She was just awful.
Just
like
such an uneventful death. Just throw her against the
Yeah, no, it was not good. And was this the whole premise of the friends even being there, like, okay, so they're there for a surprise party. The guest of honor doesn't show up, and really no one seems to care that much. Except for the cousin. He cares a lot, but he also keeps a picture of his cousin in his wallet.
Yeah.
I don't know. There was a lot in this one that I just didn't like. And overall, yeah, the acting was atrocious. The doctor was an idiot. The one potentially good kill in this, which was would have been the weed whacker, because I was like, oh, yes, here we go. And then he gives him a paper cut with it.
Oh, yeah. Just like a scuff.
I was mad. Yeah, not good.
No.
Bottom.
All right, Sam. So I'm on number 9, I think. So,
yes.
So my number 9 is number 8. Jason Takes Manhattan.
Yeah.
Don't have much to add. I mean,
yeah.
I guess the redeeming qualities is some of the characters, like the guitar girl is awesome.
Yeah. Yep.
I do like the mean girl. I think she plays a good mean girl.
Yeah. That's fair.
Like the whole biology project and blackmailing her teacher. Like that's mean. That's wild.
That was insane, actually.
Yeah, it was pretty wild. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, I was kind of like, whoa, yep, okay. Well, she's doing it.
It's even beyond that. She knocked somebody overboard.
Yeah.
Potentially killing them. I mean,
okay, and it came honestly out of nowhere, and I was like, why the fuck did she push her overboard?
That's millions. Like that's attempted murder, right? I mean, that's
right, and no one cares. There's like, oh, that's so mean. Why would you do that? Like, oh my god, yeah, I can't believe that. And I actually, her death was pretty good, and I kind of actually felt bad for her in her death, like, because she was she was a pretty good actor, and yeah, she's kind of like crouched in the corner and like, just like that was kind of rough. But there was some,
yeah.
Rough
And to be honest, like the dean or the head teacher, I don't know what his job title is.
His name Charles.
Yeah, he kind of seems like a classic dean in like one of those college movies or something, right? Like Animal House or something.
Yeah.
But
where
yeah,
mostly
like,
there to get made fun of.
But he is very annoying, but most of the characters didn't bug me that much. I think that's kind of why I could take this movie. Like I didn't get bugged as much by the characters in this movie. Like I really got bugged by part 7. Like those characters bugged me.
Yeah, I don't even remember them.
Yeah, they're kind of like forgettable, which I think is almost a positive. I mean, if you're gonna have a bad movie, it's probably better to just have it be kind of a dull, pleasant experience rather than an angry, like, I hate this character, you know? So I don't know.
That's true. That is true. Yeah.
I'm kind of grasping here, but
no, I mean, we didn't talk about the ending of this, which also for me, I think was a reason that it went down, just because I thought it was just so goddamn stupid. Just more
acid and more and this weird symbol of Jason being a kid. I guess they tied that in at the end. So she actually was pulled under by Jason as a kid.
Yes. I mean, I didn't get that entire premise. I didn't understand because, like, okay, so wait, why is she getting visited by Ghost Jason? Like, and first of all, at first I was like, is that kid supposed to be Jason? Because he didn't look a thing like Jason from the other movies. He was giving me like the Ring vibes, like kind of a little bit, especially when he was coming out of the mirror. Just almost that like Japanese horror kid. You know what I mean? I don't know. And then the idea that like at the end he just like, I don't know, I guess kind of transforms into a little shivering kid Jason, and I mean
Now, okay, now I don't remember because it really doesn't matter. But what was the kid at the very end? Was he not deformed? He looked like a normal kid at the end.
Yeah. And he at the beginning he sort of did too. And there was one shot of him where he came through the mirror, and I could see they kind of. Oh my god, he had kind of the deformed eye. But other than that, I was like, what's going on?
There's like two different kids, right? So yeah, it's like is one of them like reality deformed Jason, and one of them is like maybe some sort of supernatural. If Jason wasn't, yeah, I mean, it's like when you start getting into this weird supernatural stuff. I mean, it is kind of like a suspended disbelief, or it could be anything. I mean, I guess she could be hallucinating kid Jason because she was traumatized at the lake when she was a kid.
Yeah.
Or maybe. Oh
yeah, I forgot about that. They had to try to stick that in there as like the reason. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. There's just a lot of crazy.
You know what? And actually, that does actually tie in why the dean or the principal Charles is so protective of her, because he was the one that kind of pushed her in aggressively when she was a kid and traumatized her. So maybe he feels guilt. I don't know. Maybe.
Well, he should. He is an asshole.
I'm like defending Charles. Why?
I feel guilty. He's a piece of shit.
Yeah.
There's just other like the scene, I guess, where Rennie gets like abducted from the group by the heroin addicts who are gonna try and rape her and inject her with heroin first, and nobody really cares that much. Like they're like, okay, they let her be taken away, and then Julius is like, oh, we should go after her, and the rest of them are like, well, let's slowly do it.
Yeah.
Because we don't want to get killed. And it's like, guys, like, even her boyfriend, I'm like, dude, you gave her that hideously tacky Statue of Liberty necklace. Go chase after her. Get her back, right? Like,
yeah,
that necklace is bad. It's so bad. When I'm not even like a person who would be like a shallow person. Like, that's very nice that you got her that nice thing, but like, woof. It's not it. It is not it.
I did notice, but yeah, I'll take your word for it.
So bad. It's the tackiest thing I think I've ever seen. And she's like, oh, it's beautiful. I love it. And I'm like, oh my God, no. No, it's like yellow gold, and it's like this like pen.
It's massive.
No.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, bad movie. I'm with you.
Yeah.
More than you.
So I think for me, those three are the ones I did not like. Pretty much every other one I really enjoyed. You know, I mean, some of them are really dumb, but they're enjoyable. Which is, it's a pretty good ratio for me. I think, 8 of them I like, and 3 of them I don't like. So it's
that's not bad.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah, that's not bad. That's a pretty good ratio. And I mean, it's something for you. Like, I mean, I have a few things more to say about hate fuel, like hate rage things here. But not much, because I too did enjoy a great chunk of them as well beyond this. But I think this is number 8 now, right?
You're 8, yeah.
Yeah, I think this is one where I might get a little pushback from people. But my number 8 was Friday the 13th, part 3, part 3D.
3D, yep.
It was a little bit tricky with this one because I even wrote that the second half of the movie is significantly better than the first half of the movie. So I really only have a lot of rage about the first half, and then the second half I thought was a little more entertaining, just a little better. But yeah, so at this point, we're coming off of Friday the 13th part 2, and in theory it's supposed to be like the next day or like so first of all, nobody seems to care about that. Nobody seems to care that they drive by a murder scene, and nobody cares that there is a literal massacre that has just happened 5 minutes away or whatever it is from where you're going. So that I was like, my God, how are we gonna have this timeline be so close, but we're not even gonna act a little bit like, we should maybe like, not. Let's pick somewhere else. Let's go to Niagara Falls. you know, like, like what? I the opening credits bugged me. The cheesy 3D-ish, like, I didn't love the opening credits. What else?
Okay, how about that song though? Is that a good or bad song? I'm not sure.
I didn't love it, and I thought it was pretty bad. It felt like it was like they were just, I don't know, like they like it was, I don't know, I didn't like it.
It's almost like it's trying to be cheesy,
right?
But okay, but what confuses me though is that it like over time I've grown to love it, but it's one of those good bad songs, right? Like it's like it's making fun of horror music with like the ooh, right?
It's like
the theremin. Yeah. But it's like which is like I think there's a lot of that in this movie. Like there's some really goofy practical effects, right? And like it's like, is this making fun of itself? I'm not quite sure. Yeah.
It doesn't seem to know if it is either, right? And I think that's it's a little weird in that way. But it was the first time you get an opening, and I guess it's number 3. So we've had 1 and 2, and it's the first time you get an opening where I'm like, this is not scary. This is not, and especially coming off of part 2, this is not scary. So that's always a bit of a problem for me. I want something that's gonna set the mood for, especially like this early in the franchise. Like I want to be a little scared, right?
Yep.
The first 2. So this is like our first introduction to like a Crystal Lake podunk residence or whatever, and we get treated to this human taking a very visceral dump in an outhouse. And I don't know why that had to be it. And it's the first time, like there's going to be more of this dumping in an outhouse in this franchise, in this movie, as a matter of fact. But this one, I'm like, this is the first scene. Why does this have to happen? I don't understand.
And I think they actually throw in the noises too. Like you actually hear.
It's very, yes. Yeah. It's disgusting. Like, why? It's not pleasant. I didn't like that at all. The characters in this one were okay. Obviously, we get one of the most controversial characters of all time in the forms of Shelley.
Shelley, yep.
And I'm definitely in camp. I hate Shelley. I know there are people who apparently like find him very humorous. I hate this character, and honestly it all comes from that line where he's like trying to get with Vera, and then she's like, okay, I'm sorry, no, see you later, and she walks away, and then he goes, bitch.
Oh yeah.
I'm not here for that. I'm a nice guy, but when you don't give me what I want, I'm gonna be an asshole to you. That is not cool. That's not cool. I hated him. And also, like, okay, presumably everybody knows here that Chris has it is Chris, right? Yeah. That Chris has undergone some kind of trauma. They may not know what it is, but presumably all of her friends know this. So why the fuck does Shelley pretend that he got hacked up in a closet to scare her as a joke?
Yeah.
Like, if you know your friend you don't know what it is, but you know she's somehow traumatized and this is like a thing coming back for her, why would you do that? Like, he's just such an asshole. I just cannot stand this character. And the other guy I can't stand in this is Rick, her like boyfriend, who's also a piece of shit. Because, here she is like, oh man, I, potentially, as we find out, got sexually assaulted by a disgusting forest mutant. And here's him going, well, I can't take too many cold showers.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
That's going to be really hard for me. So you better figure this out, okay? Like, are you kidding me? Right? Like, it's so infuriating. I'm telling you, the first half of this movie, I was not happy. I didn't like the biker gang. I just think they were outrageous. I mean, the actors were okay, but it just seemed like why were they there? I didn't need, I don't know. The character, the stoners, even, who I I'd be like, oh yeah, that's hilarious. And the only funny part really is when they are hotboxing the van and they're like, the van's on fire. And then they I was like, okay. And they're called Chili and Chuck, which apparently was supposed to be, they were literally supposed to be representations of Cheech and Chong.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Which I totally get, but their being in this friend group makes zero sense. They are like 40 and the rest of them are like 22. Like it doesn't make any sense that they're there. So they're, they have some funny moments, but I just don't buy them as being part of this ensemble of kids. Yeah. I don't know. The acting is sacrificed for the 3D. The lighting too, it all has to be so brightly lit for the 3D to work. So that atmospherically takes me out of it. I don't know. It's the first time we get a fully realized Jason Voorhees.
Yes.
And when that happens.
It's significant because it's the mask, right?
Yeah. And so I think for me, when that happens, when he comes out and he's finally got the mask, I'm like, okay, the movie has turned around, because from that point on, I have a pretty good time with it. The guy getting sliced right in half when he's doing the headstand, and then he gets, I don't know how this is even possible.
Yeah, he's like shoved into the rafters and there's no blood, right? There's no blood, just a couple of drops.
Just a couple of drops, but he's completely eviscerated. Like, he's sliced in half. And so my God, that kind of stuff, it's great. I mean, we get I liked Vera's arrow to the eyeball. That was great. And we get Rick's, thank God, Rick dies beautifully with a nice head squeeze when his eyeballs go. So that's cool. Kind of cheesy, but cool. But yeah, I think just overall for me, this one, it just kind of seemed a little more ridiculous. The rapey backstory, I guess it kind of makes sense if you wanted to explore a little more the idea of her friends helping her through this trauma that she's undergone, but it's like they just completely ignore it. So what's even the point,
Yeah. I don't disagree with anything that you're saying. There's a lot of really kind of douchey moves or dick moves that are happening with these characters. I would probably just say, I think technically they're teenagers, or they're like late teens, so they're kind of dumb to begin with. Like that's kind of how I forgive some of the bad behavior.
Mm-hmm.
I think, but yeah, I don't disagree that it's bad behavior, especially if your girlfriend's going through trauma and all you care about is getting laid at the cottage. I guess it's kind of weird, right? But
it is so weird, and presumably they haven't seen each other since it happened. So the fact that his first interaction with her is about, when do I get my dick wet? It's like, you don't. How about that? And I just, his character, they seem to have a long history with just having kind of like beefy guys who are just really kind of there for being a little bit of eye candy for us, which is great. But Rick is definitely my least favorite of these guys, because he's I just don't like him. I just don't like him. And it's kind of a bummer. Steve Miner, who directed it, did a way better job in part 2, in my opinion.
You did part 2, it's right. Yep.
Yeah. And so it's almost like, it was a little bit disappointing for me that the continuation wasn't because you would think, my God, you did the second one. So the third one, it could have been set up to be so good. I just think so much was sacrificed for the 3D that it just. Yeah.
And I mean, Steve Miner's done great stuff beyond that too. So it feels like this just isn't up to his standards.
Yep. Yeah. And again, there's, like I said, there's 2 outhouse scenes in this. The first one is disgusting because it's so visceral. The second one is where our stoner Chuck decides he needs to go for a number 2 in the outhouse and doesn't wear shoes. He is barefoot in the outhouse. That is disgusting.
Yeah.
Even to film it.
I do like that line though, when I think it's Jason's kind of like, it's kind of like hazing him by shaking the outhouse, and he's like, Heavy shit.
Oh my God, yeah.
Such a stoner line from the 80s.
Heavy shit, man. Whoa. Yeah, okay, that was pretty good.
So maybe you could excuse the bare feet. He's probably high.
Yeah.
He forgot his shoes.
Listen, I've been at a campground high before, and not a chance am I going into the outhouse without my Birkenstocks on. Okay, like
pretty gross. Pretty gross. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, it's so
like, I don't even know why I'm defending these characters. I'm like, oh, come on, Sam.
You're like, oh, come on. I mean, you can understand going in. Maybe he was high and he really had to go. I mean, no, there's no excuse. There is no excuse for it. Listen, I didn't hate it. I did because, as I said, the end. I really did like the chase scene at the end was pretty good. Like, I overall like the end of it. I was like, okay, I like it.
Yeah.
But the first half of it, the characters, the 3D stuff, just bad. So
yeah, I agree.
Thumbs down. Thumbs down.
Okay, so my number 8. Let me just make sure I get this right. Here, I got my.
Yeah, it's flipping back and forth.
Okay, so for me, the jump in enjoyment from my number 9 to 8 is pretty big. So
good.
I like this movie. It's ridiculous, but I still like it, and it's Friday the 13th Part 9. Jason Goes to Hell.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, fun movie, ridiculous. He's jumping bodies. But it makes fun of itself. I think it knows it's what you're saying with that meta horror genre. It's kind of in on the joke. Like, this is just ridiculous.
Yes.
And I did hear an interview with the director, and he was actually on the set of Part 1 when he was releasing.
Yeah.
So he knows the franchise. So he really played to Jason's to Friday the 13th's fan base while making it different. So I kind of respect that. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I actually really like this movie, but yeah, it's ridiculous. I mean, I think it's pretty.
It's so
pretty
crazy.
Obvious, like why it's not the greatest of the series, but it's fun.
But like, you said, was it this one? I think this one. No, maybe not this one that gave me that. But I really liked parts of this. Like, yeah, I mean, it is a weird premise. Like, it
really
is
weird. Yeah, it's like this weird. I guess evil soul that takes the form of some kind of weird worm thing. Like, but then there's other times when the worm thing doesn't appear. It's just this urge to. So it's kind of half
totally
esoteric, invisible spirit force and this kind of weird little monster thing. Yeah, it's weird. It's very weird. But.
It's New Line's first entry. So when New Line took over from Paramount, this was the first one that they did. And I honestly, I think it seems like sometimes this one does get like a lot of hate from people. I think it's like very creative. Now, I didn't love all of it. Like, there are definitely things about it that I think were just ridiculous and didn't really get explained very well. But there was a lot of great stuff in this, particularly from an effects like gore standpoint. Like, this was, I wrote down that the cop melting is the best effect of the entire franchise so far that I had seen. Like, it was so good. I think there's a lot of really good things. I think the main thing that I struggled with was that every character seemed to have a backstory that was introduced vaguely but never followed through with, right? Or like we just don't get enough information for the backstories to matter. Like, as an actor, you want to have your character have a backstory. It doesn't necessarily need to be explained to the audience. It's more for you to know where your character came from, right? Mm-hmm. But it just seems like a lot of things got introduced, and I was like, this is a lot. Like, it's hard. It's a lot to follow. All these connections between people, and even the family backstory coming in. Like, I get they had to sort of figure something out to, tie it all in and make this story happen. But it was a little weird that all of a sudden Jason has a sister and he really cares about it. This is what is it, 9th movie now? So it does seem a little bizarre that he just suddenly cares, but it definitely has vibes of being like one of those ones that as long as you just go, okay, all right, I'm here for it, then
just
you can have
with it.
Then you can have a really good time, right?
It is funny because I feel like this movie was made for the fans, yet in hindsight, doing a bit of research, a lot of the fans don't like this movie, but I feel like it is a fan.
Totally.
Yeah, it is made for fans. It's understandable why you can kind of tell that they're trying to spice it up, right? Because I mean, it's like Jason Takes Manhattan. Like they want to make things a little different, I guess, because just this mutant killing people in the woods gets a bit old, right? I mean, you got to spice it up somehow, and this is definitely a way to do it. It's definitely
for sure. Yeah, I liked how when they introduced like the American Case File show. Now that guy is a total douche canoe. Like, I hate that guy. But I mean, the whole like, because there was like this was 93, it came out, and that was like prime time for like American like case file shows like that. Like they were all over the place. You could watch like true crime, documentaries. So it was kind of cool that they had, that kind of flowing through there like that. There was, oh my God, some good. I don't know, these random campers that get introduced, which gives us kind of like a little bit of a taste from the like original like setup, right? Like, oh, okay, so we are getting some campers here, and I think they're interesting characters that have great deaths. Like the one girl gets just macheted through the tent and sliced right in half.
Yep.
Which is gross and kind of freaky. I think it's not the first time that there is a couple having sex in a tent with the light on when their friends are outside. It's like, guys, what? Just turn the light off. And then they're all concerned. They're like, oh, I don't want anyone to see me. Well, turn the light off while you're having shadow puppet sex. Like, it's ridiculous. Like, stop it. But like, I don't know where this line comes from, but the boyfriend before they have sex says, you think you're ready for Tony the Wonder Llama?
Oh yeah, that's right.
Is that the name of his penis? Is that what I'm supposed to take from that? I don't understand.
He probably labeled his penis, yeah.
Yeah, and then he's like, and then he does oh God, Debbie, I can't possibly put this condom on. I hate it. It's just the worst thing ever. And they're like, okay. Like, oh my God, the times, man, the times.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a good movie. I like it. And hence it being my number, what is it? 7?
Oh, geez, yeah.
7.
Confusing. Yeah, 7. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, it is. I know when. Yeah, that was my number 7. Was Jason Goes to Hell. And again, here we are. I'm having a great time. I honestly really, really liked it. Creighton Duke, this like
he's
bounty
great.
hunter.
Yeah, Creighton Duke's great.
He's giving me major, like there's that scene, there's a few scenes where he's giving me major like Quinn from Jaws vibes. Yeah. He's like, I'll catch him and kill him or whatever. And I'll make sure he's, it's like, I don't know. That's
true.
Giving me real vibes there. Yeah, he's really memorable and funny. And I don't know why he breaks I don't remember the other guy's name, Steven or something. I don't know. I don't know why he breaks his fingers and then is like, well, now you have to fight Jason.
Yeah.
Why did you break my fingers?
You gotta pay or something, right? Everything has a price.
Well, this is terrible. How am I supposed to survive the next, hour and a half of my life? But yeah, I thought it was cool. I liked this one. I really did. The opening, when the coroner's like, the subject suffered extreme explosive trauma.
Yeah, that's a really great scene. It just flashes between the credits, and he's just.
It's like the grossest autopsy I've ever seen in my life, and then the coroner just eats Jason's still beating heart. Yeah. Gross. Like there's so many good. Yeah, I liked this one. I think we're on the same page here.
Yeah, it's like it was really enjoyable for me. I feel kind of bad putting it so low on the list, but yeah, I mean it is fun.
It was fun. I actually switched this one because I had that's how much of a hard time I had. This was the one I said I needed to go back, and like when I went back and watched it, I went, oh yeah, because it was higher up on my list, and I went, no. I really liked this one. I'm not fooling anybody. So I actually originally had part 3 down here and then switched them because I really liked this one. I thought it was great. Yeah.
All right. Awesome. Okay, so my number 7.
Yeah.
Similar to this one in being goofy but fun. I'm gonna go Jason 10.
Oh.
Yeah. I think I saw this in the theater when it first came out.
Yep.
And I was the only one there.
Yep.
And I had a blast. I went at 2 in the afternoon or something.
Yep.
But I had a great time. It's a basic sci-fi movie meets Jason meets it's great. It's
So good.
it's and I mean even just the way it's set up. I mean it's Jason in space. I mean you know what it's going to be, right? You're not going to be disappointed or shocked. It's like no, this is going to be a silly Friday the 13th movie in space.
A
And
science fiction slasher.
Yep. And it worked. I think it did everything that it needed to do. And I mean, it was cool that it had the Uber Jason at the end there. That was a neat touch. Probably the greatest kill in the entire series was when he freezes her face in that liquid and then smashes the face. Like
hands
probably the greatest
down.
kill in the whole series. Yeah.
Hands down.
By far.
The most creative, and it stuck. Yeah, that one was one that I watched this movie when I was a kid, and that death it always stuck with me because it's so good. It's iconic. Yeah, really.
It's so great. It's so great.
Yeah.
And I'm just trying to kind of a cool, kind of like a cool throwback, kind of what they did in Part 9, right? Where they want to distract Uber Jason, so they set up this hologram of those two girls, being stereotypical, like, let's smoke some.
That was great.
Let's have premarital sex, right?
It's so good. And he's like, all right. And he's beating them in the suitcase, or in the sleeping bag. Like, oh, no, that was great. Yeah, I wrote Cyber Crystal Lake, LOL. Like, I was like, that's so funny. Have you ever met a more easily distracted serial killer, though, than Jason? Like, honestly, every time, like, someone... Jason! And they're like, he's like, what? I'm just going to completely forget about the person I'm in the process of killing because I'm distracted now. Like, it just is so good. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah. It's and I mean, like, it's kind of like an animal, right? I mean, Jason is an animal. It's like when an animal is hunting or killing, that's all it thinks about.
Oh my God.
And, yeah.
It's so funny. I wrote too that, like, I mean, so I just think that, like, man, these guys cryogenically freezing Jason Voorhees is a very not my backyard, not my problem way of dealing with him, right? Like, they're basically like, okay, well, we don't know what to do, so let's make this an issue for someone else many, many years from now, right? We'll just freeze him. And obviously that went horribly wrong.
Yeah.
Forgive me, because I'm not a scientist. But I did not know that a machete could stab through solid steel to the point where, like, it goes in like butter in that thing. Yeah. To the point where enough cryogenic particulum can freeze another human outside of the room. Like, I don't know how that happened or how it worked, but I'm here for it because I think it's great. I just think it's so great.
Oh, I forgot. There is a little cameo from David Cronenberg too.
Oh yeah,
he's the scientist at the very beginning.
Yeah. Oh my.
So that was cool.
Yeah, that was kind of cool. Yeah.
Cool. I mean, he's just iconic. I mean, I love David Cronenberg movies.
Yeah, that's really great. Yeah, that was fun. I mean, the director of this is Jim Isaac, and I mean, he did special effects for Gremlins and Return of the Jedi, and then he directed Skinwalkers from 2006. Cool. And yeah, I love what he did. I just think it's again ridiculous. Go with it, and you'll have a great time, right?
Totally. Totally.
Yeah, I mean. That's the next one on my list was Jason X, which I believe is number 6 for me. I think
it's confusing too because it's like the ranking.
I'm like, let me just double check that. Yeah, no.
Number 6, Jason 10.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we're on number 6. Yeah. Yep. So it was number 6 for me. I loved this movie. I just think it's so great. I couldn't tell if they were trying to say that like the sound of that one character, those two characters having sex, was what kind of like helped to bring Jason back a little bit. It almost seemed like, because right as the characters go, first of all, I don't know how you're getting all horned up over this rotting, thawing corpse. But she's like, the one character's like, I bet he's hung like a mammoth. And he's like, yeah. I'm like, guys, this is disgusting.
Yeah.
Like, what? How does this get your goat? I don't understand. Maybe I'm just not freaky enough. I don't know. But I can't figure that out. And then they go off to have sex and they leave the one girl there. But then I think the shot is like she orgasms and then Jason's eyes are like, he's up and he's ready to go. And I'm like, are they trying to kind of insinuate that all of this lusty behavior has really like helped to like thaw him and bring him back? Like, I don't know, but
yeah,
I mean, it's freaking great. I think it's funny. I think the characters are quite humorous. I mean, we get a robot bio babe who's like kicks Jason's ass into,
she's great. Yep.
Which I think is awesome. And yeah, I mean, apart from that frozen head kill, there's a lot of great effects in it. We got a lot of great kills. When they take, it isn't a kill, but when they take off Jason's mask and it's gooey and like,
oh yeah, yeah,
that was really gross. You get that guy who's like kind of crawling with his guts hanging out, which is really cool. And you even get like a giant space city explosion, which I don't really get how the entire city just explodes in space, but cool. I mean, I think it's awesome. Yeah, I really enjoyed this movie. I really, really did. This was a good one.
Yeah.
I don't care what anyone says.
Yeah, I mean, how can you not enjoy it? It's because I think beyond part 8, I find part 8's kind of like it's the border where everything above part 8 is aware of itself.
Yeah.
Like part 9, 10, and even the new one, like they're all kind of aware that, it's a silly genre and it's kind of past its prime, so they're just having fun with it. They're not taking it's not taking itself seriously at all, which makes me really enjoy them.
Yeah, I mean that's it, right? It's like it's just fun. I mean, none of this would ever happen, and even like it's just ridiculous. But I just think it's a good old romp through space. I mean, what do people expect when this is at the bottom of people's lists? I'm like, what did you expect? It is. It is Jason in Space. That's how it's advertised, right? I mean, right, and he's literally like, they don't hide it. It's about him getting cryogenically frozen a la Austin Powers, okay? Yeah. And then waking up, 250, 300 years in the future? Guys, that's what you're at. So if you're putting this at the bottom of your list, I'm not trying to start a fight, but you're being ridiculous.
Yeah. No, it's
I don't know what you want.
It makes sense, right? I mean, it's these need to be fun as well, right?
Yes, especially when they lose the fear, right?
Yeah.
Especially when they're not relying on the fear factor anymore. Then there needs to be something that is like, it's entertaining. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So, so my number 6 is going to be right in the middle. This is the remake, 2009. I don't have anything bad to say about this movie. I think it's great. I think they nailed it. I think it's one of the greatest remakes in all the franchises.
I'm really glad to hear you say that, because I agree. Yep.
Yeah, it's killer.
Yep.
I think the reason why it's not further up the list is just such nostalgia from the earlier ones that I can't shake that. But
totally.
But I mean, technically, this movie has it all. I mean, maybe the characters are a little too American Pie.
Yeah.
Maybe, but it didn't. I mean, I don't know. It fits, right? It fits the brand, right? It fits the whole. We're wild teenagers, We're doing, or however old they are. It's all like 20, 30-year-old actors.
Yeah.
What I would say though is I noticed in this one, I guess this would be a criticism, is the girls all look very similar. I had trouble telling the girls apart. Like they're all just these very attractive kind of model actors. I had trouble telling them apart at points. I think if you're casting a bunch of friends that you don't really get to see that much, you need to kind of have them be a little bit more distinctive.
Yeah, which they did really well with, I think, the male characters for sure.
Yes,
they were all different and diverse and and in their own unique like kind of character way. But I agree about the women. It's kind of a bummer.
Like they're all kind of the same. Like they're not really. I mean, there's not. Like I mean, I don't know. Maybe have like a nerdier one. Maybe have like the mean one. Have like the really nice one. Maybe have them. I don't know. Just have them look different. You know.
Yeah, they are all kind of the general same. They're real. I mean, a lot of them are really just there for fodder anyway, I guess is what they were thinking. But
for sure.
But it's kind of a bummer because you're right. The men are totally, they just seem more full, right? They just seem more like well-rounded than the women do, I think. But I agree. I think this is great. Hey, I think both of us throughout this have not been always the biggest like champions of like remakes for reasons that we've stated, right? At least for me, especially like I didn't really like the Nightmare on Elm Street one. But this, I think it's really good. Like I was actually watching it. I saw this in theaters when it came out, and I remember enjoying it. And I don't really think I've watched it in full since then. But going into it, I was anticipating that I would not like it for the same reasons that I did.
Same thing with me, yeah.
Right. So as I'm watching, I'm like,
age well, or it would just drown itself in all the remakes, and it just has no personality or something, you know, that kind of.
Totally. Now, I don't think that it particularly added anything to like, you know, I don't think it added anything to the concept, you know, but I thought it was a really capable like retelling and modernizing of it, you know. I thought it was pretty good, and there was some great kills in it. The one thing that I didn't love as much is, again, and this is when it starts to get into just a little too much, like we don't need this, is the kidnapping thing, just because I do think, honestly, I think it would just have been scarier if she'd just been dead. Honestly, it takes me, because the whole idea again is that in a way it sort of humanizes him, like Jason Voorhees, a little bit, and in a way that I'm not like, I don't want him to be humanized in that way. I just want him to go out and kill people, you know. And it's scarier, as I've obviously said before. It's just scarier when we don't have that, I think.
And I think this movie is of its time, right? Because that was the trend, is to make things more realistic.
Yep.
So like I understand, like where it's coming from, and that's what I was worried about in rewatching it as well. Is like, I hope it's not too intense and gruesome, and they show too much like the Rob Zombie movies, right? I was hoping it wasn't going to be like that, and it really wasn't.
No, it's not bad. Like there's some good kills. Honestly, so we get another sleeping bag kill, right? And the roasting alive of the girl in the sleeping bag is terrifying. Like I can't. That is like, that triggers claustrophobia. If I don't know, firephobia. Like I would not want that death in any way, shape, or form. No, that one was
And I'm glad they didn't show too much of that, right?
Yeah,
like,
totally.
Like most of it, you just kind of saw her, just kind of side of her face was a little bit burnt. Like you didn't see her.
Yeah. No.
Like if this was a Rob Zombie thing, you'd see her roast for 5 minutes, and it's just be like,
Yeah.
So I'm glad they didn't do that.
Totally. The way that it was done was pretty good. I mean, okay. So anyway, it's my number 5. So my number 5 was the remake of Friday the 13th. I mean, just to continue it, it's just I thought that the idea of having it we had this opening where we're introduced to these characters who are then instantly just offed. And then it's like, you know, we're like kind of like, oh man, what's going on? Then we get this new group of kids that comes in, which in itself is kind of like an interesting thing, right? It's almost like we're getting, I want to say part 1, 2, 3, and 4 almost in one thing. And they're really trying to, hint and reflect like different aspects of the movie, of those movies, which is really cool. we were talking about the characters, and I think that they're funny. The guys especially have some good funny stuff. I mean, a little bit. I hate this Trent guy. Like, this is a character that what we were talking about before, where it's like you just have to hate him so much that when he dies, you're like,
yeah,
God. And he just gets picked up and put on the back of that, like, what is it, like I don't know, tractor spike thing.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I was like, sayonara, bye, get out of here. Like, I can't. I hated. I absolutely hated him.
He was probably the most off. Would you say he's the most off-putting character in the entire series?
Honestly, he might be. Yeah.
Yeah.
He was definitely up there for me, because I mean, and to be fair, it's possible that I'm not gonna lie, I know guys like that, and I knew guys like that. Right. So yeah, like maybe I think that's sort of like the knowing, like, oh God, like it there are people who are like that. Whereas a lot of the other guys, yeah, I guess like there's some pretty bad ones too. But the only one I would think would come close would be like Rick, honestly. Yeah, but
you could say that Rick at least was like, you know, trying to kind of put an image of being a nice guy on.
Right.
How whereas this guy was just like blatantly being a dick. Like, even just with the two instances, like this guy lost his sister, and he's like, you know, doing this sort of like boys club like macho thing with him when he's lost his sister, which is crazy. And then the other time is when he's having sex with that girl, and like they're telling his girlfriend who's knocking on his door to go away.
Right.
Man, like at least like feign that you're not with somebody, or that you're like, oh shh, you know, be quiet. Right? Yeah,
no,
terrible.
Such an
like,
asshole.
Overt asshole, yeah.
And he's an asshole to every single one of them. I'm like, the only reason that these guys are friends is because they're using him for this place, to be honest. Because he's so rude to all of them. Like, it's crazy. I mean,
and they don't respect him, right? Because they take the boat even when he told them not to.
Yeah. Yep. Oh God, that scene is freaky when she gets hit in the head by that boat. How she doesn't die then and there, but the way even that was filmed, where you've got Jason on the shore and she's in the water and she's awesome. Struggling to like. Can you imagine the like? That's
major head trauma.
Right.
Yeah.
And even the way that they shot it kind of made me even feel like I was there. Like, I knew what that would be like feeling like, you know what I mean? And that was really freaky. So, I mean, yeah, I
think that whole scene was my favorite of the movie. It's like you have these two wild teenagers. She's like, you know, water skiing with her top off. Like that's awesome. Like that's what a really cool girl would do. And the guy's riding his friend's parents' really expensive boat, not caring, and then you have Jason spearing him on land, which is awesome. Like he's up in there, and then and then her getting hit by the boat. That's crazy. And then her swimming underneath the dock and hiding.
Yes.
And then Jason stabbing her through the dock and pulling the knife up, and then she goes whoop, and hits the top of the dock and then slides back down again. It was awesome.
a very good sequence, like a really good sequence.
Yeah. The whole thing.
So also I did note that the script writers were the same writers as Freddy vs. Jason, which I know that I also shouted out the script for Freddy vs. Jason. And I think it's the same thing here. Like, the script is relatively good, and the actors are all really capable actors. So that's another thing, right? Like, you actually you believe these people. Even, oh my God, that podunk guy in the barn is Okay, so first of all, I have to. He's licking the porn magazine. Do men do this? Is that something? Because that's gross. Like, just sitting there, like, it's okay. No shade. Watch porn, like, fine, or read porn magazines, but like, you're gonna lick the porn magazine? Disgusting. And then he's got his like sex mannequin, and her name is Gina.
I do like that scene. Like that's pretty funny. That's pretty funny.
It's funny. I will say he is very funny. Yeah. It almost there's like sort of it's like the Rob Zombie comedy with the rednecks a little bit, right? Like it's even though you're like, it's like, it's kind of funny. And he's like just talk. He's like, yeah, baby. You want to go again? It's like,
Well, it's like, yeah, because
Oh my God.
it shows that this redneck guy does have feelings. He really cares for his, for his
Yeah.
rubber girl,
He's a loyal guy, yeah, sure, he's like looking at the porn magazines, but he's into Gina, that's his special lady. Oh my God, it's so funny. And then Jason finds the mask, and I'll also say, like, it's cool that we got sort of baghead Jason and mask version of Jason, right? Because
part 2 and part 3 combined.
Right, exactly. And this Jason freaks me out. He's really
great.
quite, yeah. Apart from, like I said, when it gets to the kidnapping stuff, where it's just a little too for me. But he's freaky. Like he's stealthy, and he's tall and big, and I certainly would not want to run into him anywhere. Like,
and it's not Kane Hodder. I don't think it is.
I don't actually. That's a good question. I didn't write down that it was Kane Hodder.
I mean, Kane could be getting on in age, right? Maybe
he might have. Yeah, I think maybe his last one was Freddy versus Jason, but I don't know. Maybe not. I'm not 100% sure about that.
Yeah.
I wrote
this was definitely a top tier Jason for sure. He was.
Great. Yeah, he was freaky, and I wrote too that it's a gory, but it's not gratuitous. Right. And even the, I mean, yeah, we do get a pretty like explicit sex scene, but like even that, like you're just so busy being upset with these assholes that you're like, but yeah, I mean, I think it's great. I really, really do think that this is a really good one. I was all in.
Yeah.
Except I didn't like Jenna. That, and I guess that we talked about the women characters. Like I didn't like her as I just thought, first of all, I'm like, why? I don't like her because she's even entertaining the idea of being Trent's girlfriend. I'm like, there's something I don't like about you, and I think it might be him. But even like, I don't know, she just seems like, first of all, she seems like she likes stirring the pot a little bit, because that your crazy violent partner is not going to want this guy to come in. That's not going to be a thing. But she's like, come on and be fine. Have a beer. You're good. It's fine.
And then she kind of runs off with him.
She runs off with him, which is,
Yeah, it's...
No shade. He's an asshole, her boyfriend, but like...
For sure. But it still kind of shows that she's a little bit sketchy too.
Yeah, she's not very likable. And she's kind of... she's not... I don't know. We have way better final girls, and she doesn't even end up being the final girl. So
and that's kind of, I guess, would be another criticism of this movie is the characters don't seem to be very genuine. Like they are that kind of Hollywood American Pie.
Totally, yeah.
Cast as just a bunch of asshole teenagers. Like I think in the earlier Friday the 13th, there is an honesty with the characters, like a genuineness where they're not these, Hollywood models. They're real people. Yeah. So I think that would be one last minor criticism with this movie is it's a little too Hollywood, I think.
Yeah, totally. It's a little, I agree. And I mean, he did, the director of this one also did Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake. That was before. Okay. And if I remember correctly, I don't hate that either. So I think that this particular director is pretty well suited to this kind of thing. I don't think he went on to do more of them. Like he didn't do any of the other remakes, but I give a thumbs up. It maybe not a popular opinion, but we share it. I agree. Yep.
Awesome. Okay, so my number 5, I'm gonna go part 3.
All right.
Yep. I don't really have much to add from what you've already said. It's a little goofy for sure. It definitely was a step down in quality from the first two. But I think for me that there's still a bit of nostalgia with this movie. Mm-hmm. I kind of like it the more I watch it. It's it's kind of like one of those good bad movies. It's just a lot of fun. It's ridiculous, but it's a lot of fun. I like. I absolutely love Harry Manfredini. I think he's one of the greatest modern.
Yeah, I can't believe we haven't really talked about that, but I think yes, I'm with you. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think because his best work is in the first. The
earlier one.
Yeah. But yeah, he's kind of like a B Bernard Herrmann. Like he's kind of like a B movie Bernard Herrmann kind of style guy, and I mean he nails it. And just that, like I'll bring it up. It's the Jason sound effect. That
Yeah.
like that is, I mean that's one of the most iconic horror sounds in any score, right? I mean that's like Jaws level.
Yeah.
Like
totally.
It's crazy. Like that's
really
good.
Such
a recognizable sound effect, and yeah, I mean that's kind of more. I should probably talk about that more when I talk about part one, but yeah, like the music, excluding the kind of the goofy theme song, this movie has great music. And nothing more. Yeah, and I agree with you. The ending is really scary.
It's pretty good.
Like even when Chris is she kind of escapes him in the boat in that little kind of lake pond swamp. I don't know what you call it. It seems like a pretty small lake, but
it was a man-made lake for the movie. Like
really?
It's apparently and apparently it was grody. Like really not. Yeah.
It looked a little like swampy.
Yeah. Well, because at this point, I think this is the first movie they actually shot in California versus shooting in Connecticut or New Jersey or wherever they were.
Gotcha.
Which I also think is part of the reason that I love that in the first two it's shot like that. It just makes it very like what's the word I'm looking for? Authentic in a way to like it gives you that like that vibe of like camping in New Jersey woods, right? Yeah. Whereas like there's a couple of shots in this movie where you see palm trees and I'm like that doesn't have like
that's California.
Okay. And there's no like big lakes out there, right? So yeah, they had to sort of make this swampy lake that doesn't look good. But sorry, you were saying something about her in the boat.
Yeah, so I love that scene when she kind of wakes up and she sees Jason in the top window of the cottage and he's kind of like
ooh, it's freaky.
Off. And I mean, he looks pretty scary. Like that's like that's a good looking Jason. That's a freaky Jason there. And he comes running down the stairs. Like he sees her. He's like, and he comes bursting through the door. Like the door flies off the hinges, and then she wakes up. That really scared me when I first saw that. That was a great scene.
That's true. That is really freaky. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I guess there was the classic sort of jump scare where it looks like the mom comes out of the lake and pulls her under, which is a little confusing because she's beheaded, right?
I think it was supposed to be Mrs. Voorhees.
Oh
yeah, but she is supposed to have a head. Yeah, right? That's right.
So why is she fully? Yeah. That always.
That actually, that's weird that I didn't even think of why she had a head. I was just so.
Yeah, and then why would Chris, does Chris know about the mom?
Yeah, that did seem. I mean, I get what they were. They were trying to be like, oh, it's like the first one, like a little callback. But yeah, that didn't really work. But I do agree about the Jason coming out of the house at the end. And from what I gathered, the Jason in this movie is not like a favorite of a lot of people. I personally think he's really good. This was like a British, I don't remember his name, but he's like a British stunt guy or something like that. And apparently, I was hearing just from certain people that like, it's not the favorite Jason, especially in comparison, I guess, to like Kane Hodder and some of the other guys. But I really like this Jason. I think he's freaky and he's very like animal-y, like when he's in the barn and he's just tearing things apart looking for her and cool. He's grunting and like he's very, very animalistic, and I thought that was pretty creepy. And especially at the end, like we see Jason's mask off a few times and it just gets progressively crazier. So like by part 5 it's just like this isn't even a human anymore. But this Jason with his mask off looked like an adult version of the little boy that we saw drown, right?
Yep.
So it was freaky, I thought. Yeah. It's a good one.
Good one.
Good one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so that's your number 4, I guess.
4. We're getting there. Yes.
Here.
So my number 4 is Friday the 13th, the OG.
Nice.
That's my number 4. And yeah, I mean, we already said this, but like I love all these movies at this point. So going into this is what I say when I say like this hasn't been historically my favorite one. So I knew sort of There are a couple that I've watched a few times, which would be like this one and part 2 and part 6 and stuff. So I did know some of them, and just not a lot of them were like my favorites. So I kind of thought going into this that once again I would end up with this one being like my number one, just because I mean it's the original, and how do you top the original, right? But I did. Here it is at number 4. I still really love this movie. I start the opening shot, even just of the moon and the night sounds and the fire crackling, and you really are put into that like camp. It's like you're there, and the music hasn't even started yet, and you're just hearing like noises and like night sounds and crickets, and off in the distance you start to hear the like gospel music sing along come in, the camp songs, and you're like, oh no, the camp songs, eh? Woo. Starting to get a little steamy in here with these camp songs, apparently, because off these two.
Okay, yeah, there you go. Like, why would that excite you?
It's a little bit silly. Like,
no, I know.
They're she's strumming the guitar and like staring at him like, all right, let's go, big boy. And it's just like, oh my God. And they're just, okay, it's not great acting, but it really, like, it sets a tone for what it's going to be. And the music starts in, and this is the first time we're hearing Manfredini's score. I will say, and maybe get hate, I'm sorry, but I don't think at first that this score is as effective at setting the atmospheric vibe as Nightmare on Elm Street or Halloween. I think this is a great horror score. And I hear all sorts of different inspiration from it. Like, you could hear Psycho in it, you can hear Jaws in it. I think that like it is a very well crafted score, and as the franchise goes on and it continues with that score, I think it's great. I don't really have qualms with it. It's just that when I think about the iconic Halloween, that atmospheric Halloween score with the I can't even think, that one freaks me out. But at the Nightmare on Elm Street 1, 2, just was a little more effective at making me go like,
well, it's not necessarily the score that is effective, it's the sound effect.
That's true. Yeah.
And I would probably say that the sound effect is actually probably the most iconic out of anything.
I will say. Yeah. I mean,
everyone knows the kill, cat. Like, that's what we did as kids.
Yeah,
like,
totally.
I'm about to kill you. It's like, kill.
Yes. Like yeah. When we get that in, I'm like, and I don't think it doesn't start at first. At first, we're just getting score, and we're just getting, when the kill ma comes in, I'm like, okay, there it is. Like, that's it. That's the hook there. That is kind of like,
because like I would say to you, hey, Sam, sing me the Friday the 13th theme. Like, you wouldn't know how to do it, right? I mean, it's just sort of scary, like dissonant music.
Exactly. Right? Yeah, so, and it's great.
It's well done, but it's not memorable as the other two franchises, for sure. Yeah,
exactly. I
agree. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not that I have like a problem with it, because I really like it, and I like the kill. It's so cool. But it's just like, at first, when like the other two movies, their opening scenes were so effective with the use of that like iconic, right? That this one sort of lacked that a little bit. But I still really, I like the opening of it. I think it's a really cool opening. I think the problem and why this one ended up a little lower on my list is because it feels like the cart was put before the horse with this one, right? So Sean Cunningham, he literally had the title in his brain before he knew what the movie he wanted to make was. You know what I mean?
True, because so was Jason killed on Friday the 13th? Does it even matter?
It's not. Yeah. So I was watching I was watching an interview with him where he said that after Halloween, he was like, well, I want to do this. I want to make this movie again, because obviously it's going to make money. I don't even honestly think it had anything to do with him liking horror. Most of it was just, he was pretty open about it, just being like, I just think it would sell really well. And he had in his brain, he said, what if I made a horror movie called Friday the 13th? that would sell tickets. And he's right, and it did. But I just think that it was like, yeah, you have the title before you even have a premise for the story. So then we get this like, yeah, like, was it Friday the 13th? I don't know. They don't even mention it. They do in later installments. They mention like, oh yeah, it happened on Friday the 13th, but not in this movie. So I mean, from that, like the script in it is not great. Not a great script. You know, a lot of it doesn't it just feels really I don't know, acted, you know, not it just feels false. Like people don't really talk in these ways. You know, even so Betsy Palmer, who's Mrs. Voorhees at the end, I quoted her in an interview where she said that she got the script and thought, what a piece of shit.
Nice.
And yeah, she said that the only reason that she wanted to do it was because she wanted to buy herself a little Scirocco. I'm saying that right? A little car.
Okay.
It was like, I don't know, I'm just gonna do it, and then no one's gonna see it, and then I'll get my car. Preach, right? You gotta have a paycheck. But what's funny is that it turned out to be a really iconic thing for her, right?
Yeah,
Where she's like, I mean, yeah, this was something that I think she actually came to like really treasure that this happened. Whereas at first, apparently, she was like, oh, I cannot believe I'm doing this crazy movie. We get
that's true with a lot of movies, because I think most movies aren't successful, right? So I think most people just kind of, it's just a gig, right?
Especially one like this, right? Like, you know,
yeah, I mean, like the most iconic franchise of all time, right?
Yeah, we get some we get like our introduction to like the first round of like what will become the tropes of the horror franchise, right? Of lots of horror franchises in these characters. The first, so this is our first, like, I guess you can call him beefcake guy, although I argue that he doesn't belong up there. Is this what's his name? Steve, or lumberjack Steve with the mustache, and his tight jorts and his neckerchief.
No. Yeah.
Who costumed this guy? I don't understand. And then, like, you know, we've got Alice, who's the final girl, and I think she's a pretty capable final girl. I don't particularly love or hate her. I have more favorite final girls, but she's pretty good. I like her.
She's very ordinary. I would say, like, she doesn't look, she's not particularly beautiful, but she's capable. Yeah, she's very kind of just an average looking. Yeah. Very kind of average acting.
Yeah, totally. You know? Tom Savini doing the effects is great, because we have some really awesome like kills. Obviously, Kevin Bacon and the arrow going through which stuck with me, that one, when I saw that one, because that is freaky.
I think I would probably rate that the second coolest kill. After the face smash.
Totally.
Yeah.
I have to make sure that I don't think too much about how that skinny ass arrow goes through an entire bed and bone and body to get up through there, but that's fine. That's fine. It's
kind of funny to think of like Betsy Palmer like hiding underneath the bed with fear. It's weird.
And she must have been right, and she must have been there the entire time they were having sex. So it's like
creepy, yeah.
Creepy. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, also there are a few times where, okay, I will say I love the ending where it's Mrs. Voorhees. I do think that that's a really cool. That's cool. I think it's iconic. I think her performance as Mrs. Voorhees is so unhinged and really, really great. Like she's great. It gives me Hitchcock, right? When she comes in, all of a sudden we're in a movie that's like, oh, like, okay.
Yeah.
But the build up to like it being revealed that it's her, it doesn't make a lot of sense, because I'm sorry, I can't buy that this like older woman is capable of some of the things that we've seen this killer do, right? This is the only time I actually do buy that she's sneaky.
Yeah.
Right? Where like whereas like in Jason whatever New Beginning, I don't know how it is that someone who probably stinks as bad as this guy does is capable of sneaking up on people and just appearing out of nowhere. But I buy it with Betsy, right? I buy it with Mrs. Voorhees. But there are literal shots where you see Tom Savini's like Greek hairy arm, and it's supposed to be Mrs. Voorhees, and you're like, well.
There's got to be like tons of this stuff on YouTube of like continuity errors in the Friday the 13th films. There's tons of them.
Probably.
Yeah.
I love it. I think it's cool too that like there are like throughout the movie you get hints of like the characters recognizing who it is that they're seeing. Like even at the very beginning with the two counselors who are caught having sex or almost having sex and then getting killed. It's like you see them and they recognize who it is. So they're like, hey, we were just, and so like, oh, it's someone that like people know. So it kind of, I like that. Like it's freaky and it sets up a good like, oh, there's something freaky gonna happen, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed this movie. Not my favorite, but it's pretty good. It's iconic. We wouldn't have the other ones without it. So
Absolutely.
Number 4. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and that's not unusual. One is rarely at the top.
Yeah.
Which is actually quite different from the other two franchises, right? Because one is usually always on top.
Yeah, and actually, it's really interesting.
You're definitely not. You haven't been contrarian so far. Like,
okay, good.
You've been very.
Worried.
You have the consensus view.
Okay. Yeah. All right. I love it. Yeah. I mean, it's a good one. This rating this franchise is tricky, and it's weird because especially the idea, like we've talked about this one before, that the original is always the best and the sequels are always like usually like just terrible. And since this is the like really like the most iconic and like where all of the horror tropes come from, it is kind of interesting that the first one isn't the best. It's weird.
Yeah.
But I think that comes from, again, Sean Cunningham being like, well, I have a great title for a movie.
Yep.
No idea how I wanted to get made, but it's...
Well, I mean, I could say that the reason why this franchise managed to last is because part 2 was so good. Usually the sophomore effort is the determining factor of what... Yeah. And even with bands too, right? You have like bands that have really long careers. It's usually the second record is like the make or break record.
Yeah.
And I think that's the same with long franchises.
Yeah.
Although you could say with Nightmare on Elm Street, I mean, that was kind of the exception, I guess, maybe. But, I don't know. Anyways, okay, so my number 4 is part 4.
Yeah.
Really nothing bad to say about this movie either. I think it's classic. I love Corey Feldman. I mean, I kind of grew up with him being, he was like fun to watch in movies.
Yeah.
So it's cool seeing him. I love Crispin Glover is amazing. That dance is epic.
So I heard that he was actually dancing to Back in Black in that scene when they filmed it. He was dancing to Back, but they couldn't afford the rights for that. Yeah. So they changed it out.
In White Lion, right?
Yeah. They stuck in the one that they could afford, but it's funny because you're thinking like, oh, he's dancing to a completely different song than what's on.
It makes it even better. Yeah. Because his dances don't really line up. It's awesome, right? So great.
Yeah. It's so funny. Yeah, he's great in this. He's great.
Really good. Jason's great in this. He looks awesome.
Yeah.
I just thinking back, I mean, yeah, it's all. I'd probably say with this movie, there's nothing really that sticks out in this movie. I guess that's the only criticism. I mean, it's fine. I don't. Besides the dance, there's not really any scenes that I would say that's the greatest scene in the series. It's just a really kind of overall, really competent, good sequel, and it was the most popular. I think it was the most successful, and I mean, I do like that. I guess they're getting a little bit deeper with young Tommy, kind of, shaving off his head and trying to relate to Jason. And I mean, that was interesting. Like that was
instead of running away, he's shaving his head. Yeah.
And this was the first time that it wasn't just a lone woman against Jason. It was Tommy's older sister and him.
Yeah.
So that was the first time when it was Jason versus two people.
Yeah.
And it is interesting, like that these movies have the formula is it's Jason versus or well, in part 1 I guess it's Betsy Palmer, but it's it's the villain versus, like a damsel in distress, but a strong damsel in distress.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like a feminist statement at the very end, I guess, right? It's like an empowered
which is
woman
so much
that's against all odds can face this sort of unstoppable force that's killed so many people.
Yeah.
And I think with part 4, the fact that it's a young boy or a young kid, that kind of adds to that. You don't expect a young boy to kill Jason, but he gets close to it, right?
Yeah.
So it is that kind of. I think that's what makes it exciting. I mean, if it was just one of the big jocks fighting Jason, it wouldn't be as effective.
No.
An ending. It wouldn't be as like, you wouldn't be like on the side, because like no one wants to see. I mean, a decent person doesn't want to see a woman get hurt, right? So
in theory,
like there is that.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, totally, and a kid too, right? Like.
And absolutely a kid. Yeah, you don't want to see kids.
And a dog, and they have a dog too, and it's like the trifecta. It's like, don't hurt the dog, no.
Yeah, you don't want to see these people get hurt.
Not the golden retriever.
Yeah. So I mean, it's a formula that's played out a lot, but but it works, and so no, I mean, it's a good movie.
I totally agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that we get Tom Savini back for gore and special effects is so great. Like it just seems right, that he takes it over. And what's cool is that they so apparently they named Tommy for Tom Savini, and the whole idea of him having
because he's into the masks.
Yeah. So that's kind of cool. I'm like, oh, that's nice. That's really sweet. Apparently like the director of this was like a real hard ass.
Okay.
Like a real hard ass. Like he did a great job, but there were stories of him just not being very sensitive to the actors and just treating them very, very badly. Mostly because, they say, well, we get it because, we wanted to make a good movie. And like, yeah, I mean, you don't have to be a dick about it, right? The girl who gets stabbed in the raft, apparently, like, because she had to be partly in the water, and apparently she just was like, she was almost hypothermic. She was having like he just made her go and go and go and go, and like at the end, the guy who plays Jason in this movie had to be like, hey, like, this is enough. You need to let her rest. You need to get her out of this water. She hasn't eaten. She's freezing. Like, so there's apparently a little bit of tension on the set. There was another thing I heard where Corey Feldman was saying that he was so frustrated by the end of it that the scene when they were filming him hacking Jason with a machete, he apparently, when he was saying die, 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 he said, I was picturing it being Zito. Like, I was literally picturing it being him. Like, I was like, ooh, okay. Oh my goodness. Number 3. Getting there. I can't believe it's almost coming to an end.
I know.
What? All these hours watching Jason Voorhees. Oh, jeez. Okay, so my number 3 is Friday the 13th, part 4, the final chapter. Not so final chapter.
Nice.
The fact that there were so many after this. Oh my God, that's so funny. So I love this movie for all the reasons that you said. I think it's just a great time. I think it's really cool that we get the Jarvis family side by side with the cannon fodder, with the Jason Voorhees buffet table, because we get a little bit of heart in it, a little bit, this is one of the ones that sort of proves that, like, when you have characters that are, like, well written and interact with each other and build relationships, that we care more about what happens to them. Right, because more and more, in this one, you're like, I don't want that person to die. Yeah. So it makes it it makes it scarier. It makes it more fun to watch, right? And it's not to say that these characters aren't funny, right? They are certainly entertaining to watch. I mean, I don't know who I hate more here, Ted or Shelley. Ted is just a sad person. Poor Ted. First of all, don't keep calling your friend a dead fuck. That's so
okay, yeah, dead fuck, yeah. Classic.
That's so rude. And poor Crispin. Like, I mean, I can't believe he's taken crap from Ted, who thinks like his idea of seducing a woman is to hand her a teddy bear and be like, kiss Teddy. This guy is the virgin in the movie. I'm just saying. He's trying to act like he's like, no. So yeah, I mean, the characters are fun. Who else do we get? We get these weird twins that just show up.
Yep. Yeah.
Tina and Terry are their names. And
another two.
Yeah. There's this moment where they're identical twins. I think there's this moment where Crispin Glover goes, "You got the hot one."
They're both the same.
They look exactly the same, right down to the fact they're wearing the same outfit pretty much, except for different shades of pastel.
Both riding bikes.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
I mean, I will say it definitely seems like Tina's more DTF than Terry. Sort of seems like she's just sort of like, I don't really like any of these people. I'd rather be at home. But you know.
Because the one twin she was kind of bouncing around like different guys, right? Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
In fact, she literally like is like all over the one guy who has a girlfriend with him. And for some reason he's okay with it. He's like, "Oh, all right, sweet." He's like, his girlfriend's like, hello.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh yeah." It's like, yeah, but then she jumps around. The only one that she doesn't want to be with is Ted. Breach. Poor Ted. I love the Jarvis family. I think that they're really good. Like the relationships they have, Trish and Tommy are fun. I don't know why, like Tommy is like a super kid. He's like fixing cars and making, Tom Savini level horror masks, and he's a funny guy. Corey Feldman again, he's great. Apparently, again, just like drama I heard was that the actor who played Jason and Corey Feldman did not get along either. The actor who played Jason thought that Corey Feldman was a little bit of an asshole, and he could have been right about that, but he said, I think he was fantastic in the movie. I respect his performance, but they apparently had a little bit of a
interesting.
Yeah. I'm like, you weren't bullying a kid, were you? Like, but I mean, hey, maybe he deserved it.
And usually tensions create good art, right?
Yeah.
That's not uncommon.
And it did. I mean, oh my God, we had some, I thought some pretty good kills. The hacksaw to the coroner's neck is wild. And at first I was like, oh, is this like, are we in Halloween 2 right now in the hospital? Like it was so reminiscent of Halloween 2 at that part. But yeah, that was a good one. Up to the point where I saw the melting dude might have been like my favorite kill in the series, and we don't even really get this character. We don't really know him, but he just the boyfriend who doesn't seem to care about his girlfriend being dead in a raft, getting harpooned right in the dick. Good.
Yeah. Okay, but to defend him though, he does come to his senses. He does come out and realize that he was wrong. So, he's not a complete dick, right?
Oh, yes. Okay. Fair. That's true. You're right. I'm far too hard on this poor man.
Wait, and one other kill that seems to be the reoccurring, it's not really a kill, but it's like the throwing of the body through the window. That's happened.
Yes.
I think, in almost every movie now.
Classic. I think, it's classic Jason defenestration, man. He's just right out the window. It's great. He really hurls her too. Like, holy smokes. Yeah.
Which makes it unbelievable that, could Jason's mom have hurled a girl crashing through see that makes that a little unrealistic.
Yeah. Like I mean, unless the girl was like 30 pounds, I don't know, like it would be really hard. Yeah, no, he hurls her out the window. That's another cool thing. I mean, I like Crispin Glover's death too. I like that he gets the cork. Dad, where's the corkscrew?
Yeah, so great.
Oh, I need the fancy one. And then he gets the corkscrew right in the hand and then just machete in the
machete to
face.
the face. Yeah, so it's like a double.
Like,
Yeah, that's wild.
excellent. It was great. And then poor Doug. Oh, and that poor handsome guy just gets his face just squished completely into the shower. Like, that was a good kill too. He smashes his face into the shower. And then, of course, Jason's death, because that is art. That was an artful death when he slides down on his own machete and his face is gross. It's so gross. Yeah, I really, really, really enjoyed this movie. I thought it was 2 thumbs way up.
Yep. Great flick.
Yep.
Okay, for my number 3, I've got it memorized by this point. I don't even know why I'm looking at the paper.
I just want to make sure I don't get it wrong.
So my number 3 is going to be Jason Lives, number 6.
All right.
Yeah, definitely the most fun, I think, of the entire series. This was a fun movie. Definitely a comeback from part 5. I think they realized, why are we making these really kind of sleazy, uncomfortable movies? Let's make a fun movie. And and it's like a traditional monster film, right? Like Jason comes back with a bolt of lightning. It's kind of Frankenstein-y or something, right? He just kind of comes out of the grave. Like, it's I think as soon as you see that, you're like, okay, this is just gonna be fun.
Oh man, there was no dog pissing fire on him though, which was a little bit of a letdown, I have to say.
Right. Nightmare on Elm Street Part 4. Yeah.
Right.
Now what I realize is that most of these movies don't actually take place at Camp Crystal Lake. I think it's only part 1, and it's really only part 1, I think, and part 6.
I think 4 is also at Crystal Lake, because it's supposed to be that parts 2, 3, and 4 happen over the course of like a weekend, timeline wise. They all like happen over the course of like a few days of each other. Yeah.
So I thought they were just kind of like, I thought part 2 is a camp, right? But it's not Crystal.
No, it is. Well, it's not Camp Crystal Lake, but it is in the same town.
Okay.
See, so this is what I took away.
Vicinity, yeah.
Yeah. So what I took away from it is that there's Camp Crystal Lake, and then there's a town that is called Crystal Lake, and in Crystal Lake there are other camps besides Camp Crystal Lake. So all of these, like number 2 actually is like a counselor training facility that's also at Crystal Lake, but it is not Camp Crystal Lake.
Oh, I understand. Okay, gotcha. Yeah. So that's what I meant was so part 6 is part 6 is the only movie where there is an active camp happening, right? Because part 1 they're preparing for camp,
and there's actually kids in this one. Yeah,
there's actually kids. Yeah, part 2 is camp counselor training on the same lake, but not Crystal. Not
train those counselors.
Yeah, and then 3 and 4 are just in the vicinity. They're not.
Yeah, they're like cottage homes. Yeah,
cottage
exactly.
Home.
Yeah, exactly. I think that what I understood in part 6, although I could have misheard this, they call it Forest Green, but I think they make a reference to it having formerly been called Crystal Lake, but they changed the name of it because the legend of Jason Voorhees, which they all are like the legend of Jason Voorhees, and yet again this just happened like 10 even at this point, because when Tommy's grown up, maybe it's like 10 years later. It's not a legend at this point. Like, he's still at the bottom of the lake. Like, you could go down, you could swim down apparently, because it doesn't look that deep, and be like, oh, it's not a legend, he's right there, right? Like, sorry. Anyway.
Yeah, no, there's clearly continuity issues with all these movies for sure, but I guess the fact that they're trying to bring it back, there's a feeling of trying to bring the franchise back. Like, it's like it went in the wrong direction for part 5. I think they realized that. So there's this feeling of, let's bring it back. So so let's call it, let's reference the camp. But the fact that they actually have a camp, it's pretty cool.
I think it's great. It's a great touch. It's something we haven't seen before, but it keeps with the Friday the 13th experience, right?
Yep.
Like, yeah.
And the thing I love about this movie is Tommy is just like a million times more likable in this movie.
I love this Tommy.
Yeah, he's just so likable.
Yeah.
I think it's cool that there's that tension with the cop, and he's kind of spending the couple of days in prison, and he's got a crush on the cop's daughter.
Yeah.
It's a great dynamic. It totally works. It creates a really fun tension.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah. Yep. Maybe not my favorite Jason in this movie. He feels a little small. Like, he's not quite as like big and menacing.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
He has gloves on. It just doesn't seem as menacing, but it doesn't really matter. I mean, he's this invincible kind of supernatural uber Jason in this movie anyway. So I mean, he's like super strength, right?
He punches the guy's heart out.
Yeah.
He punches his heart out. Like how? And that's the
skill. Yeah.
Yeah. I will say the one thing that's kind of funny about this Jason is that as he goes through discovering how strong he is, right? Like when he first punches the guy's heart out, he almost is like, oh Jesus Christ, I could do that. And then there's the other part where he takes the one guy by the arm and throws him into a tree, and his arm comes off, and he looks at the arm like,
wow, okay.
Wow, good for me.
I've got super strength. Amazing. I mean, he sort of always did. I have super strength.
Like, I know.
I mean, well, in part 4 too, right? I mean, he's pushing a guy's face against.
Yeah, he's crushing people's skulls.
He's doing that earlier, but yeah,
we've established.
He's clearly a monster now. Like he's brought back to life with lightning, right? I mean, he's not human. Yeah. He's not human now, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, that's all. I mean, I don't really need to say much more about it. It's just a really fun movie. It's very enjoyable. It's not too scary. It's just a it's a great sequel.
I agree 100%, and hence. Boom.
Number 2. Wow. Okay.
Number 2. Yep. This was my number 2. Jason Lives. Because I mean, all of the things we said, this one also for me is, it gives me Halloween like chills, like, not the movie Halloween, but like Halloween time. I don't know why it's set in the summertime, but, this is a particular movie that for me kind of gives me nostalgic kid Halloween feelings. You know what I mean? I love this one. All of the reasons that we talked about already, but just the characters in this one are very interesting. I love this Tommy. The other Tommy, we didn't really even get to see a lot of him, and I really hated that movie, so I feel bad for him. But this Tommy is just like, he's very charismatic. He's a very, very attractive fellow. So he's nice to watch. I mean, this is also the one where we get the James Bond opening in the credits.
Yes,
where it's like,
right. I forgot about that. That's right. Yeah, which makes it fun too, right?
Oh my God, yeah, and so I mean, we had talked, I think, in earlier about part 5, where we kind of start to meet these characters that are literally just there to get killed, but they are terrible. Like, we don't really like them and we don't care about them. But this movie does that same thing, but it introduces us to characters that actually in very short periods of time are memorable and have like a fullness to them. Like, first of all, we get these campers who are on their way to the camp, this couple, and she comes across Jason in the middle of the road, and she says, I've seen enough horror movies to know that any weirdo wearing a mask is not friendly. Like, and they've had, like, we almost feel like we know who these people are, even though we are just meeting them for the first time. They're really well acted. They cast good people to play these small parts so that we actually even care that, like, this is happening. We get it again with the paintballers, right? Where, like, we're meeting these characters who, like, we're getting a lot of detail about them very quickly and in a really efficient way. And then they get taken out, right? I mean, he takes 3 out in one. He decapitates 3 people at the same time.
Yeah.
It's so good. I do like, I think her name's Megan, this final girl with Tommy. I really like her. I think she's kind of spunky and fun, and her relationship with her dad is really weird. Like, he seems like really angry at her a lot of the times. And I mean, okay. And she just seems to not care. Like,
yeah.
I don't think she has a lot of respect for her dad. But I also think that he's like a really interesting character too. I get a little mad at him because he's just being so obtuse, and he's like insisting like Tommy Jarvis is a psycho killer. Okay. First of all, you can't just like, you have absolutely zero evidence of that. So you cannot keep him in prison and just because you think he's a psycho killer. That's not how it works. But the way he even talks to Tommy, like one of my favorite lines is he says, "I'm going to paint the walls with your brains." Like you can't say that.
Can't say that, yeah.
Can't say that, right? And oh my god, I think he's great. And then I also love his death. He gets folded in half, and he has a little bit of a redemption arc, because at the end he's like trying to come and protect the kids and protect his daughter, and like I don't know. I think this movie is just so great. I really do.
It's great. And I'm as you're talking, I'm just thinking about scenes that like the whole like RV turning over.
Oh,
that's so great.
I can't believe I almost didn't mention this because that scene sent me. I was laughing so hard. That character, that Court. I mean,
great. Yeah.
The look on his face when she says, "Just 10 more minutes."
He's like,
it's so funny. And then like here's what, like they go out and they discover this, the Court has been massacred, and Court says like, "Oh, we better get the hell out of here unless we want to look like this," right? And then so, they get back in the RV and they take off, but then it's just like all of a sudden Court just forgets that just happened. It's like it's like nothing. And all of a sudden he's blasting the music and he's asking the girl, what are you doing back there? You're taking a dump? Like,
yeah,
like
he just
like completely forgot like that. Okay, no problem. Oh God, it's so good.
Yeah, I forgot that he should probably still be concerned about the frayed wire there, right? Yeah, because someone cut the power to
right, like you should still be like, oh my god, okay, I don't know, like I'm just and then if your girlfriend's not answering you, doesn't it like maybe occur to you like, oh man, like we left the RV unattended when we went outside together, oh no, like but nope, nothing there. We get kind of like an interesting like take on almost like Jason, because there's kids at the camp now. I don't know if I'm alone in this, but I get the distinct impression that we were supposed to be kind of taking away from this that Jason won't kill kids.
So he has some limitations, some like like morale, I guess. Yeah.
Right. Cause like, I mean, I've heard people say, oh, like he could have killed them. He just got interrupted. It's like, I don't think so. He had plenty of opportunity to like actually kill those kids and he didn't do it. And I kind of wonder if they're like trying to play like like maybe Jason's like a protector of kids, just like his mom thought she was, because that's kind of like, the Voorhees trend there. So I kind of thought that's really interesting. Yeah, I really enjoyed this one.
So isn't that the overarching message of the entire franchise is if you do these bad things, you're going to get punished. So it is kind of like a weird Puritan message. It's like don't do drugs and don't have sex. Yeah. And don't have fun because you're going to get in trouble, right?
Yeah. I find it
message. I mean, I guess it's like it's like a message that like, maybe like the subconscious like voice of parents like echo through children's minds, like don't do bad things or you're going to get in trouble, right?
And I was thinking about this and I don't really understand where horror movie creators get off with that kind of messaging, because I'm like, no offense, guys, no disrespect, you do what you do, but you directed porno, so where are you trying to moral message me? Not that porno is immoral, but like, I mean, it's just weird, right? Because they're telling you all these things are bad, but these movies wouldn't be good without those things.
No, for sure.
And they put them in there because they know that, right? So it's like, it's just, I find it to be such an interesting thing that they try to put this message out there. Now, it's interesting. Part 6, actually, at the end of it, at the very end, I went, oh, I didn't see any boobs.
Yeah, no, it's true. It was pretty.
It's pretty tame.
No nudity in this one.
Yeah, even in the sex scene, they're wearing clothes. So it's like,
I think the problem too, a lot of these horror directors we're really coming up against censorship.
Oh yeah, totally.
So I think it's smart. Well, I think it's financially smart, with these projects to not put these obstacles up.
Yeah.
Because I think it's kind of like, okay, well, if we put a nudity scene here, we're just gonna have to cut it anyway.
Yeah.
Because
totally.
we're going to be asked to cut it. Although I don't know if this movie did that well. I mean, it's a beloved movie in the franchise. I don't think it did well when it came out. It didn't do as well as nearly as well as the first few.
No. Yeah, it might have been the first time where it started, because I think this one, like, I don't know. I like to think that if I watched this not having seen the Friday the 13th movie, that I'd still find it really enjoyable. But you can definitely tell that there are some things here that are catering to fans, right? Like, I mean, obviously having Jason being able to punch a man's heart right out or pick him up and fold him in half like he's a bedsheet, right? Like, I mean,
or the other scene where he pushes Court's girlfriend's head through the RV, like,
right? Oh my god, it's so ridiculous. But even I love the opening. It's actually, I think that this movie is my absolute favorite opening of the entire franchise. Like, this opening is so good in every way. His corpse is so disgusting, and he opens his eye, but he's got maggots in his. It's so disgusting. And
it's funny how his corpse is pretty like weightless and dry, right? Like, it's not really full. It's just kind of like
oh my god, I love it. And I also love that it gives me Scream vibes a little bit with the script. It's very like, it's got self-referential moments, right? Like we have the grave digger who's digging the grave and looks up into the camera and goes, "What kind of weirdos like this kind of entertainment?" or something like that. And it's just like he's llooking right at us, and we're like, "Oh, geez, okay, well, call me out then, old man. That's fine." I love his death too, because he's just getting absolutely annihilated on his, I don't know, whiskey or whatever it is he's drinking, and he looks at it. He looks at the bottle and he goes, "Oh, you're gonna be the death of me, but what a way to go!" And then literally Jason kills him with the bottle.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. He tosses it and he doesn't hear it fall. Yeah.
Oh, it's just so good. Like, this is one of the ones that I'm gonna watch it over and over and over, because it's so good. I love it. Yep.
I totally agree. This one has a lot of replay value. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, and one last thing. It does has some Alice Cooper songs, "The Man Behind the Mask" and "Teenage Frankenstein." Yeah, so that was off of Alice Cooper's album "Constrictor."
Yeah,
so
that was good.
It was a bit of an Alice Cooper comeback, because he was his career was kind of in the toilet around that time. So he kind of came back with that hair metal thing, and it fit perfectly with this movie.
I think that the music in this movie is really, really good. Like the music in it has, because I think it's still Manfredini's score, but they included Alice Cooper songs, and I'm not sure who the song is during the RV scene, but it's a great one too.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Well, it's Teenage Frankenstein while he's driving it.
Yeah.
Like when they're having, but like the
10-minute one. Yeah.
I don't know who that is.
Sure. It's kind of an interesting song to.
It doesn't sound like it would be a 10-minute song. It sounds just like a typical 80s rock song. Yeah.
Yeah. It was giving me like Danger Zone vibes a little bit. Like, I don't know. It was good. I really liked it. Yeah. It's such a good one. Yeah.
All right, Sam, I don't mean to steal your thunder, but my number 2 is going to be number 2.
What?
Yeah, I love number 2. I love the first 2, so it's hard. I mean, they're both great.
Oh God, I'm going to fight.
Yeah, but yeah, number 2. I mean, it's a great sequel. It's classic. Majority consensus like it better than part 1 for sure. It's yeah, I mean, it's a great movie. I there's nothing I dislike about it. I like everything about it. I love the scene when she finds the mum's shrine, the head, and then comes back around. She's the psychology student, so she's kind of manipulating Jason.
Yes.
At the end there, that's great. Amy Steele, I think, is the actress. She's great. She was in April Fools, I think.
Yep.
So she's a classic horror actress.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I love. Is Muffin the dog? when Muffin
Yeah.
when Muffin comes back, and then Jason just jumps, just does the jump
Through the window, which leads us going like, what? Wait, what? Because like, what's the actual ending here? It's almost like it leaves us hanging.
Yeah, and she's like, Paul, where's Paul? Yeah. Well, at least she had Muffin. Well, I mean, hopefully, Muffin didn't get hurt by Jason, but
yeah, I mean, I've seen a few different things because I'm wondering, did Paul survive? Because we don't actually get an answer on this, and I've seen a few different things that say that yes, he did survive, based on the fact that in movie 3, when they do a recount of the bodies, it only counted the actual people we saw dead, like it wouldn't have counted him. So, but other people are like, no, he definitely died because we never see him again. This is why I just wish so badly that we had gotten some Steve Miner answers in part 3 for some things, but yeah. Oh well.
Yeah.
Oh well.
Paul's a bit of a mystery for sure. Yeah.
He is. He's a mystery. His genes are not a mystery. That's for sure.
It's a bunch of hunks in the series, eh?
Yeah, I honestly, yeah, there really are. There definitely are. They did a good job at providing eye candy for both genders, sexes, any flavor in here. That's for sure.
Yeah.
This one especially because like not only is there a very dreamy Paul, but Mark is also a babe. Oh my God, the guy in the wheelchair.
Yeah.
I'm like, who do I like more?
I'll take your word for it.
This movie has everything. It's so great.
Oh, yeah.
I'm no surprise, but I love this movie. Yeah. So I'm a little. That was your number 2. How dare you?
I know. I apologize. I was almost thinking, like, should I just switch this to make it more like dramatic at the end there? So we both love 2, but I mean, yeah.
Well, I mean, I understand you. You're not hating on it. You're not hating on it.
Not at all. I'm just well, kind of like obvious what my part 1 is, but a part 1 it's just kind of in my DNA as a horror fanatic. It's just I can't shake it out of me. Like it's just it was a challenge for me. It scared me. So I'm very connected to part 1.
That's not surprising.
Yeah. So, and that's kind of like I think a lot. Like I will agree. I think part 2 is better. I'll say that. I think overall part 2 could be better. but it's not my favorite.
That's fair.
It's a personal choice. Yeah.
I'm gonna. I don't know. I mean, I understand.
Okay, so this is a segue into your.
This is because obviously at this point it's pretty clear. My number 1 is Friday the 13th Part 2. Yeah, I have nothing but good things to say about this movie. I love everything about this movie. The opening scene until Part 6, this was my favorite opening scene. I love that. I think first of all, just the opening scene itself, the music is perfect. It's freaky, it's suspenseful, it's atmospheric, like it's so good. The lighting is amazing. The effects that we get in the first like 10 minutes, Mrs. Voorhees' decapitated head in the fridge. Alice, obviously our final last girl, just getting ice picked. Which is at first like, I'm like, no, this can't happen. She's the final girl, but that's okay because it leaves room for Ginny to come in. And Ginny is without a doubt my favorite of all of these final girls. Like she is.
I'll agree with that. Yep.
She is so awesome. First of all, she's saucy. She's like, she kind of she makes jokes and she's not just, like she's smart, right? Like he makes comments about, Paul's like, oh, your child psychology stuff. And I'm like, well, yeah. And it's going to come in handy, man. Cause she is very smart, right? I mean, she drives a Volkswagen, which I'm like, yes, girl. I relate to Ginny. I think that if I was going to be one of the final girls, I'd be like, I want to be Ginny. She's the best. Their chase scene at the end is iconic. I can never get over the shot where she goes into his shack and the camera is on the window behind her and you just see Jason, Baghead Jason,
running towards the window. Yeah, that's so cool.
It is such a good shot and it is so freaky. And I mean, she comes at him. She comes at him with a chainsaw that she had the frame of mind to stash away earlier so that she could come back and get it. Like, she's just, I love this character. I'm so into her. I just think it's great. I think, you know, the idea that they're at a counselor training center is very bizarre. And I will say that, like, I don't exactly understand what Paul is doing. And, like, why do we need a counselor training facility? Like, why is that something, like, is that a thing? You know, like, it's a little weird, but yeah, I don't know. I love how, like, I genuinely like the characters in this movie. So many of them are great. Like, I love the different couples that we meet. You've got the first two, Sandra and the other guy, I can't remember his name, the ones who go exploring the camp and then they get speared on the bed. And I love them as characters. We get Mark and Vicky. She's just, like, she's obviously so into Mark and she is dropping all of these innuendos at him the entire, like, that she is not subtle. This girl is not subtle about what she wants to do. She even comes out and asks him if everything works okay.
Yeah, that's right.
His response is like, I get by. Okay. All right. But they're so great. I mean, their deaths, like, again, it's, you kind of care about them. Like, poor Mark, his death where he gets a machete to the face. I don't really understand how it happens because Jason comes from behind him, but machetes him in the face.
Totally.
But then he goes down the stairs on his wheelchair, and it's like, oh my God, like, it's sad. Then you go to Vicky and she's getting herself ready for, like, Mark, and she's changing out of one sweater into another sweater.
Yeah, that's great.
And then here's, like, just in case anyone's wondering, don't spray perfume on your genitals. Don't do that. Like, that's not a good thing to do. It's very, very bad for you. I don't know why she does it, but I don't know. My notes were endless for this one because I just love it so much. I think that Jason it gives me Michael Myers vibes in this one. He's still scary. I know a lot of people don't like the baghead thing. I personally find it to be really freaky. I think they modeled it after The Town That Dreaded Sundown, which I also think is freaky, but it's just that sort of idea of, like, shapeless, right? Pale. So I have nothing but good things to say about this movie. I absolutely love it. I think it was absolute gold. Just love it.
I agree. And so is this the first time that you've seen it for this, or had you seen it before?
No, this is one that I've seen, like, a lot, because I would say that the ones that I've seen the most have been part 1, part 2, part 4, and part 6. Those are the ones that are, like, very frequently on TV at Halloween. So I've caught those ones a lot. And it was actually funny. I've always liked part 2, but I didn't think going into this that I would put part 2 at number 1 because I thought, I don't know, I'm going to keep an open mind about it. I sort of know that I already like part 2, but I want to see, what the others tell me. But then as I got to the end, I was like, there's no doubt in my mind. Like, part 2 to me is just the top. It's scary. Oh my God, when they come downstairs and Ginny goes, Paul, there's someone in this room.
Yeah.
I freak out. And then he's like, he's not listening to her. And then she goes, Paul, there's someone in this fucking room. And then there's Jay. Oh my God. Like, it's scary. The music is amazing. It's probably
it's the perfect mix of being scary and fun at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah.
It definitely nailed that.
Yeah. It felt like, it didn't so much feel like a sequel to the first part so much as it felt like I don't know, like almost like it was they were like, okay, part one, we did a good job, but let's make it better. Yeah. That's what it sort of felt like they were trying to get to. I do also just want to shout out the campfire scene, particularly for me, is really cool. Like, I don't know what it is about that scene, but when they're sitting around the fire and Paul's telling the story of Jason Voorhees, it gives me like poo chills for Halloween. You know what I mean? I'm just like, ooh, like I'm so excited about Halloween and telling stories around the campfire. And like, so that, like, I love that scene. Everything. All right. Well done.
Okay. So my number one is number one. Yep. I kind of gave it away a bit earlier, but for me, this has always been my favorite because I have a history with this, and it really did scare me when I was younger. So that's still there. And what I find very scary with this movie is it's filmed with a stalker feeling to it.
Yeah.
And totally. That's what I love about it is it's like the killer's like always there, but you can't see them.
Yeah.
And
the POV shots are excellent. Yeah.
Yeah, and even when like so there's a scene when Alice is in this kitchen pantry kind of cabin, right? Mm-hmm. And the first time she opens the closet or the door and Ralph the town crazy is in there.
Crazy
right?
Ralph.
Yeah, crazy Ralph. So there's a bit of a jump scare there.
Yep.
Then I think the next time she's in that same room, you think that there's going to be somebody jumping out to her, but no one jumps out.
Yeah.
She's literally just in this room for like a minute and nothing happens.
Yeah. But it's freaky.
Awesome. Freaky, yeah, because you're expecting it, but it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And then she's in that room a third time, and I think that's when one of the dead counselors comes crashing through the window. So okay, there you get the scare.
Yeah.
Just stuff like that, or even when Marcy goes to the bathroom to the like the sort of communal bathroom like area, she's in there, and you can see. I don't know. It's the first time, but you can see. No. It's not. It's not the first time, but the killer's hiding behind.
Yeah, that is quite freaky. Yeah. She's really freaky. I think Mrs. Voorhees as a killer. You know.
Super creepy and subtle, right? And then when Marcy gets the axe to the face, which is insane, then the other counselor comes into the same bathroom, and she's looking back to where the curtains are, and you can see the curtains moving a little bit, right? But it's like she didn't see the curtains move, so like the whole time you're just like, okay, she's going to be killed in the bathroom.
Yeah, exactly.
Leaves, so she doesn't get killed in the bathroom.
Yeah.
But then her death is even crazier. So she goes back to her cabin and she hears this voice, "Help me!" It sounds like a child's voice, right?
Right.
And that is freaky because you're like, well, is that a child? So that must be Betsy Palmer. Killing a child.
Yeah, but get this. This is why I love this, because and this is a testament to, like, people brush off Mrs. Voorhees because she's not as, like, strong and like big and scary as Jason is, but like she has been watching these kids, right? So she knows that this character, because they saw earlier, she watched them earlier when one of their friends was pretending to drown. She saw this character be the first one to jack it into the water to save their friend. So she knows this is a capable kid. This is the one that's probably going to be a big threat to me. And it's true, because that character is very athletic and she comes across as like being very strong, and she lures her out with this little like helpless, help me, right? Which is creepy because she knows she's going to get her like as a sneak attack like that. It's freaky.
It is freaky. Yeah. It's these little subtle things that I just love about this movie. And then the whole ending with Mrs. Voorhees is just so freaky. Like, there's a few things. So yeah, like when Alice kind of runs off, and then it shows a close up of Betsy Palmer's face, and she's kill her, mommy. So she's channeling this little kid again. And then I think that's where Harry Manfredini says that he got the inspiration for that sound effect.
Yes.
Kill, mom. It's kill, mama, like mummy, kill, mummy. And then that scene when Alice is in is kind of closes herself in this closet, and then Betsy's like in the room trashing, and then she leaves. You hear the door leave, but she didn't leave the room, and then you see the knob of the door turning from in. Just stuff like that, right?
It's really good.
And then there's another scene where when it's kind of like Alice and Betsy Palmer, like, kind of hand-to-hand combat, basically, right? And she's throwing things at her, and she's like it's like,
oh my god, yeah, she's like, hey, come on, come on.
Yeah, just stuff like that, where she really turns evil and sinister, and
yes,
it's all the and I think those are the things that I remember as a young kid. It's just it's subtle, it's not fancy, it's just like a long shot in a room, and just kind of turn the camera to the side, and is the killer there, like stuff like that. I think is absolutely genius. I think this movie just nails it. For stuff like that,
I agree.
And it's but yeah, I mean, there is a feeling of it being low budget too, so I guess that's the downside of it. But I think because it was low budget, they really had to make the shots effective.
Yeah, and I do think also I wrote down that I really enjoyed the cinematography. The way that it's shot is really cool. No, I agree. It's like with what they had for the budget of this movie, it's an effective film. That's for sure. I like it.
Yeah.
I think also Betsy, I love that her Mrs. Voorhees, and it even is aided again by Manfredini's score, because when she shows up, there's almost this relief in the score where you're almost, oh, okay, there's someone here to save you, right? And she comes out, and at first you're like, oh, okay, this old lady. There's just something slightly off about her, right? You don't really know for sure, but it's just something. But for the most part, at first you're like, okay, great. But then the way that she builds it, right? There's over the course of their conversation, she just builds it so well, so that by the time she's fully crazy, she's taken us on a wild ride. You know what I mean? You're just like, whoa, she really, Betsy Palmer did interviews where she said, I didn't play her as a bad guy. And that's a really important thing to note, because even in acting school, when you do villain 101, right, you're taught that no matter what character you're playing, you don't think that your character is bad. You don't, in fact, usually, just like in real life, we're all the main characters of our own story. So for the most part, as a villain, when you're playing someone who's maybe doing things that are not quite, maybe massacring kids, you can't go around being like, me, I am an evil person. I'm doing this because I'm evil, right? That's not scary. So how she plays it is she's just protecting the children from these disgusting, depraved counselors who are irresponsible and who let her son die, and she doesn't want that to happen again, right? So she is fighting for what she believes is right and good, and that makes it just so much more compelling to watch her, right? Because you're not watching some lady be trying to play an evil person. That's not cool to watch, but you're watching someone who truly believes in what they're doing is right. She thinks that massacring these kids is the right thing to do.
Yeah.
It's wild.
Yeah, totally. And I think that's also why I really enjoyed this movie. Is because it's a mother doing the killing. So it's a little more in depth than just this kind of this mutant zombie kind of grown man, right? It's not as multifaceted or just kind of deep. I don't know. Yeah, it's like a mother protecting her child. It's that's such a primal.
Yeah.
But it's like she's turned it around. So she's become this she's become what she would be protecting her kid against, right? It's weird.
Right.
It's very psychologically deep, right?
Totally. And I think that if you had asked me, if we, again, at the beginning of this, before I'd started watching this, I probably would have said that this was my favorite. I would have been like, I know I like part 1 and 2. I love like Friday the 13th, the original. I love the concept of how it's not Jason. I think that in watching them all again, for me, it was like, oh, but actually I see now versus when I didn't really before that it really is like Jason is the franchise. So this movie, while I love it, I think it's great. For me, the number one was number two, because not only do I love that movie, but it really is where the franchise becomes what it is supposed to be or what it's going to be, right? So it's interesting.
Like part one is almost like a prequel, and then the series starts with part two, right? Like that's where the whole thing begins. That's when Jason is the killer.
Totally.
We're off to the races, right? Part one, it's this kind of, and you're right. It was a little bit weird with the branding. Like, what is Friday the 13th? They didn't touch on that. So yeah,
it's like the title.
Okay, I also have to say though, I at the very end when Kid Jason comes out of the water, that always just scares the shit out of me. That's so effective. It's got that really kind of like that sort of like overly kind of cheesy things are great. Music in the background, and the police are there, and she's just in the boat. Oh, it's all over, and then
it's so good, it's one of probably I think the best hooks that we got left with. Like as the end of the original Nightmare on Elm Street, the ending is not my favorite. But in this one, like the ending leaves it
sets it up.
Right. And it's cool because it's not like we know it's a dream at the end. Like we are told that it was a nightmare, that this happened. But at the same time, it ends up not being it. And then not to go back to part two, but the fact that part two then opens with Alice having a nightmare again. And actually that's how we get the kind of replay of what happened versus just being like a reel. That really works because it kind of ties those two things in together where you're like, was it just a nightmare, or is this guy real? No,
I have to add too. I totally didn't realize that head in the fridge was Jason's mom. I thought it was probably just the kid that was playing outside. No,
it was a little decomposed. I think. No, I'm pretty sure it was. Right. I think. Well, and then this is a funny thing that I thought about too, though. I was like, okay, so wait. So this mountain, or not mountain, a forest mutant, 8-foot monster drowned kid who is severely deformed, somehow, I don't know, takes a taxi to this to where Alice lives. I don't know exactly how he gets there.
because Alice looks like she lives in the city, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So he takes a taxi there or takes a bus, and then also he must be carrying his dead mother's severed head with him. So I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah, I totally didn't make that connection, but it makes sense that the head would come back at the end.
Yeah, I think it's supposed to be like hey Alice, remember when you chopped my mom's head off? Now it's in your fridge and I'm going to kill you.
That makes so much more sense. I just assumed it was because like when Jason's like, you see like there's kids playing in the street, or there's a kid that's kind of skipping, and then he kind of walks out of the frame, and then Jason's foot comes down.
Jason decapitated a child and put his head in the fridge.
Which doesn't really make any sense. I never really thought about that. And that also kind of adds that Jason doesn't kill kids, which I guess it kind of gives a little bit of.
I mean, we just never see it happen now. But the thing is he does. This is why I get confused with that concept, because we do see him like going after kids like Reggie and Tommy but he doesn't kill them, but he does torment them. I don't know. It was either way. I definitely have come out of this with a new love for these movies. So that's been quite a delight. I'm very, very happy with that discovery, I think.
Yeah. And you know what? I think our opinions on these movies line up pretty well. I think we didn't have too many fights. No. The only thing we almost fought about was Craig Wasson. Yes. Yes, you hate Craig Wasson.
Hey, Craig Wasson.
That's okay. That's okay. I mean, it's almost like I don't really. I've only seen him in a couple films, but yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. You're defending him pretty hard.
I know I was. Maybe I do love Craig Wasson. It's
Discovery Epiphany. Oh, Craig Wasson.
All right.
Yeah.
Awesome, Sam. Well, I think that's
great.
probably good to leave it there. But yeah.
We did it.
All right. Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah.
All three major horror franchises. That's
Holy smokes. So many hours. So
Big beat, yeah.
many hours.
all right, Sam.
It was
I'll
a
see
lot
you
of fun. Okay. Bye.
Bye.
Jimmy Wolf's Guitar Solo Countdown.